talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it.
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, England and Wales's population jumps by 700,000 in just 1 year, with 98% of that driven by migration. Is this sustainable?
Yes, more than 1,000 anti-immigration or anti-immigration accommodation protesters took to the streets of Waterlooville in Hampshire to oppose government plans to house asylum seekers in new apartments, with more protests planned for Epping and Waterlooville later today.
Elsewhere, chaos continues from yesterday's major air traffic control failure, which grounded flights across the nation at one of the busiest times of the year. Over 150 cancellation, and it took 20 minutes to switch to a backup system. The question is, who is to blame?
And this comes as a private group of companies reveal their rival Heathrow expansion plan, this time with a shorter runway on offer. Some are asking, what's the point?
Now, Donald Trump warns Canada it could lose out on a US trade deal, all because of its support for Palestinian statehood, following in the steps of France and Britain.
Elsewhere, GPs are now threatening winter strikes over Wes Streeting's NHS rescue plan, with more doctors and more nurses set to join the walkouts.
And the most popular baby names for 2024 have been revealed. Some might surprise you.
$700,000 in 1 year. Crikey.
I mean, I suppose we've come to expect this now. We've had sky-high migration for at least the last 3 years. But...
Well, since 1997, I would argue.
Well, I mean, we've had high migration since 1997. We've had sky-high migration.
Super-duper immigration.
I mean, like twice the level of high migration. But here's the thing. It's not just, for me, about the numbers. Because if we had strong population growth driven by...
Go on, you mean it's about the quality of who's coming here, that's what you're saying.
If we had strong population growth driven by high birth rates, that would be a very good thing for this country. That's what drove huge growth in this country through the Victorian era. It's sustainable growth, but also it's most likely to be productive growth. I think what we should be most concerned about for the 700,000 growth here, 98% of it is driven by migration. But of that, a minority is people coming on work visas.
Yeah.
So what percentage of these people are actually coming as net contributors? That, for me, is the biggest question.
Well, it's a good thing we've got an expert on this coming on very shortly indeed, because I think we'll put that question to her. How many of these people who have arrived in the last year are going to be net contributors to our economy? I imagine it might be quite low as a percentage.
Well,
maybe I'm wrong.
The crazy thing, as the Tory MP Katie Lamb has been explaining this week in a new viral video. I mean,
oh yes,
if you come here and you stay here for 5 years, you get indefinite leave to remain. If you get indefinite leave to remain, you have access to the wealth of benefits that this country offers. And, of course, a very, very expensive pension system to which, of course, you contribute less than people who've lived here all their lives.
And how on earth are you supposed to integrate people on this dramatic scale? Anyway, gbnews.com/Your Say. We're going to get stuck into that after headlines with Sam Francis.
Hello, a very good afternoon to you from the newsroom. The top story just after midday. Well, Canada has joined the UK and France in pledging to recognise a Palestinian state if, they say, key conditions are met. The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, says the Palestinian Authority must commit to reforms and hold elections with Hamas excluded from power. He also blamed Israel for allowing a catastrophe to unfold in Gaza, where 7 more people died from malnutrition just yesterday alone. The move has drawn condemnation, though, from Israel and a warning from Donald Trump, who now says a US trade deal with Canada will be very hard. From Friday, Canada could face 35% tariffs unless a last-minute agreement is reached. Here, almost 900 people crossed the Channel in small boats on Wednesday, according to figures by GBNews. It pushes this year's total to now more than 25,400 people, with some dangerously overcrowded dinghies carrying up to 95 migrants a time. Meanwhile, protests are continuing in Epping, where 2 men are due in court after an asylum seeker allegedly tried to kiss a 14-year-old girl at the Bell Hotel. And in Waterlooville, there's fresh anger over plans to house 35 illegal migrants there in new flats in the town centre. The local MP, Suella Braverman, says the move would overwhelm public services and also risk undoing years of regeneration work. Ofcom is cracking down on porn sites failing to protect children online. 4 companies today, running 34 adult websites, are now under investigation over their age check systems. The sites attract more than 9 million UK users each month, but Ofcom says it's not clear if they're keeping under 18s out. The regulator says the group of firms were prioritised for the investigation due to their high number of users and potential risk of harm. Airlines are calling for heads to roll after a technical glitch grounded over 150 flights during the UK's busiest travel week of the year so far. Ryanair and EasyJet among them say the disruption is outrageous and extremely disappointing, with Ryanair demanding the resignation of the air traffic control boss. The radar-related issue hit just after 4 p.m. and was resolved in under 20 minutes, but left thousands of passengers stranded. Departures have now resumed, but airlines want urgent reform and passengers are being urged to check before heading to the airport. A man and woman have sadly died after falling from the cliffs below Whitby Abbey in North Yorkshire. Emergency crews were called just after 7 p.m. last night after the pair were seen on the rocks as the tide came in. A Coast Guard helicopter helped recover them. An hour later, the paramedics confirmed they had both died at the scene. Talks between resident doctors and the government are set to resume after the latest 5-day strike ended in England. The British Medical Association has now accepted an offer from the Health Secretary to restart their discussions, but he's warning the union has squandered the government's goodwill. Wes Streeting says he won't reopen negotiations on pay, but is willing to discuss working conditions, exam fees and rotas, calling the latest walkout deeply disappointing. It's now the 12th strike since last spring and the first under Labour, following an earlier deal which did give doctors a 22% rise over 2 years. A hotel tycoon has launched a bold rival bid to expand Heathrow Airport. Surinder Arora's company has unveiled plans for a 2,800-metre third runway that is shorter than the original design and would avoid rerouting the M25 and keep costs down. Called Heathrow West, the £25 billion plan also includes a new terminal opening in phases and a fully operational runway by 2035. It means for the first time 2 bids are now on the table, with Heathrow also submitting its own proposal this week, but it's expected to cost billions more. The singer Jess Glynne says she feels sick after the White House used her hit song Hold My Hand in a meme-style video promoting deportations. That clip shows migrants in handcuffs boarding a plane with the viral Jet2 Holidays advert and its now infamous line, "Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday," dubbed over the top. The voiceover actress Zoe Lister says she would have never condoned her work being linked with the Trump and his abhorrent policies. Glynne says her music is about, quote, love, unity and positivity, never division or hate, as social media users are blasting the video as inhumane and calling it embarrassing. And Mohammed has once again topped the list of baby and boy names in England and Wales, the second year running in the #1 spot. The name was most popular in 4 out of 9 English regions, according to new figures today from ONS. Noah came close second, followed by Oliver, Arthur and Leo. Olivia, though, did keep the crown for girls for the 7th straight year, ahead of Amelia, Lily and Isla. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with your 60-second update in around half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's a quick look at the markets for you this hour. The pound will buy you $1.3229 and €1.1567. The price of gold is £2,493 and 32 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,177 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 12:10. Now, the number of people living in England and Wales has grown by more than 700,000 in the year to June 2024. That's the second largest increase in more than 75 years.
Yes, the first largest increase was last year. Well, the year before that, sorry. Anyway, an estimated 61.8 million people are now living in England and Wales, with the change said to be largely fuelled by international immigration.
Well, joining us now is the director at the Oxford University Migration Observatory, Dr. Madeleine Sumption, MBE. Thanks so much for being with us, Madeleine. This is, of course, a big issue that is electorally significant, but also societally significant. What can we say about who has been coming and whether or not these people are going to be net contributors to the balance sheet of the country?
Well, as you've said, over the last few years, we've had unusually high levels of migration, and there were a few different reasons for that. We had a lot more people coming as international students. Now, typically, students have stayed temporarily, but actually one of the things that we're seeing recently that's quite interesting is that students have become more likely to stay. It looks like probably still will have a majority leaving, but people have become more likely to stay in the UK. We've then had a lot of people coming in on work visas, and over this period that the data you're talking about are measuring, the one big thing happened there was a work visa was opened up for people in the care sector because of the shortages in that sector, and there was a really unexpectedly high number of people who took it up. More than 100,000 care workers came in a single year, joined by more than that number of family members. So those were the two big drivers. On your question about the overall impacts on public finances, what we've seen in general, what we've seen for migrants, if we look at the overall migrant population, is that their average earnings tend to be quite similar and that their impact on public finances is relatively small. But we see there's a huge variation. So you obviously have some people who are contributing, hundreds of thousands over the course of their lifetime in tax revenues, more than what they would receive back in, the cost of things like the NHS. And then you have other people who really struggle in the labour market, lower employment rates or lower earnings, and there would be a net cost of those people. Now, these most recent cohorts, it's actually a little bit early to say. The data that we have so far, perhaps weirdly, I was expecting to see a decline in earnings and employment among the recent group of migrants, and perhaps oddly, we don't see that in the data so far. Their outcomes seem to be not so different. But I think the big question, I think we'll know more in the coming years, because what really matters is who stays long term. Do the people who earn most and do best in the labour market, are they the ones who choose to stay in the UK? How do people settle in? Because that will really affect the long-term impact.
Also, is an average worker in the UK on an average salary a net contributor anyway?
Well, no. So currently,
so even people on average salaries are coming in and not going to be net contributors. So you have to have a very good salary, don't you, to be a net contributor?
That's right. At the moment, because we're running a deficit, the average person in the UK, has a deficit. If you parcel out all of the cost of spending to each person, the revenue and spending, then yes, the average British person would also be running a deficit because because that's the situation for the overall public spending. But broadly speaking, if you average that out over time, people need to be, and this applies to migrants and to British people, people more or less need to be in the top half of the earnings distribution or a little bit above the average in order to be making a net fiscal contribution over the course of their lifetime. No, migrants are a little bit less expensive than British people because we don't pay for their education and their childhood. Obviously, quite reasonably, children represent a fiscal cost to the government because we pay for their schooling and their healthcare. But broadly speaking, we're looking at people in the top half of the earnings distribution who would be net fiscal contributors.
Which then raises the question about all of these social care visas that have been handed out, because there's two things that seem to be happening here. Number one, a huge number of people coming along on those social care visas and bringing their families as well, who may or may not be in work. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have seen a lot of people who initially come on social care visas move from the social care sector into other sectors. And just because you come across on one sort of visa doesn't necessarily mean that that is the visa that you stay here using. Otherwise we wouldn't have an employment problem in the social care sector, I'd imagine.
The problem, there was a big problem in the social care sector, which was that there was a lot of exploitation and abuse of that system. And so you had people coming, actually through no fault of their own, people sometimes having paid recruitment fees that they shouldn't have had to pay. They arrived in debt, and sometimes they showed up and found that actually the job that they thought was there for them and that they had been sold a lie, and they came in and those people ended up unemployed. Some of them went to work in other sectors, some of them were destitute. So that was a huge problem, actually contributed to, that was a major reason behind the government's decision to close the social care visa, which they have just done in the last week or two, because it was so difficult to manage that system. In general, we actually don't know that much, unfortunately, about people switching sectors. Broadly speaking, if people are coming into highly skilled, highly paid jobs, that shouldn't be so much of a problem, because the next job that they move into is probably also going to be a decent job. The care sector, I think, was quite unusual in that it offered a route for people to come into actually quite a low-paying job where the risks of exploitation were really high.
And just very quickly, are the people coming across the channel in small boats included in these statistics?
They are included in the population statistics that you have been talking about.
OK, well, Dr Madeleine Sumption, really appreciate your time. Dr Madeleine Sumption, MBE, there from the Oxford Migration Observatory.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating stuff. Well, from mainly talking about visas and legal immigration to the other half of this equation, the illegal immigration crisis this country is facing. Well, last night, 1,000 anti-immigration protesters demonstrated against plans to provide accommodation for couples and parents seeking asylum in flats above shops in Waterlooville.
Yes, a lot of people came out, and in a letter to the current Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, wrote that such facilities made town centres no-go zones for the patriotic democratic, common-sense majority. And she hailed, didn't she, the peaceful protest that took place?
Absolutely. Let's speak to the Conservative councillor for Waterlooville now, Peter Wade. Peter, thanks so much for being with us. This is clearly a huge amount of feeling there in Waterlooville. Can you give us a sense of what went on yesterday?
Well, thankfully, it was a peaceful demonstration, which I always agree with. There's so many people that is out of homeless. And the immigrants or the migrants, they come straight off the boats and claim all the spare accommodation we have to offer, leaving the poor people in the Waterlooville area homeless on the streets without any money. It's just appalling. Our women and children are not safe. They couldn't have chose a worse place in Waterlooville for them to go to. It's notorious for antisocial behaviour there. And we're putting 35 migrants into the flats. It's only going to cause chaos and disruption, and of course there's going to be a lot of people really upset about this.
Yeah, and Peter, I mean, it's in the press that these apartments are worth about 250,000. Is that right? What's the sort of average house price around there?
Yeah, that is, in that sort of situation, it's about right, and they're getting them for free. It's appalling. I think Suella Braverman's doing a sterling job trying to get the public aware of the situation. And she is getting somewhere. We've had over 10,000 signatures on the protest against it. We need to stop this happening immediately. The government don't seem to want to understand our problems. They just want to shove people wherever they can. It's really, and which Waterlooville is not the place, especially in the town centre.
And yet around the country we speak to councillors like you all the time, Peter, and it's so frustrating, it must be, that this is plonked upon you by central government and you have almost no control over the situation.
Yep, you're right. I mean, wherever they go, they cause problems, they rape the women, they sexually abuse them, we just don't want them. I think we do need migrants to some degree to fill in the important jobs and to pay tax and to earn their way.
I suppose you want them to come legally. Peter, I'm afraid we have run to time, but thank you so much for joining us here, Conservative councillor for Waterlooville.
Yeah, please do join us again if there are any further developments. But we have some breaking news from Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, here in the studio. Now, this is related to the small boats crisis in the Channel. Mark, what can you tell us?
A significant success for the National Crime Agency in its efforts to go after the people smugglers, disrupt the supply chains. A key component, of course, of Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer's strategy to try and smash the gangs. Well, the National Crime Agency have disrupted a particular supply line and seized 25 small boats that were crossing, and you can see those boats there that have been seized. They were crossing the border in Bulgaria into Europe, the Kapitan Andreevo crossing in Bulgaria, which is a key route into Europe. The National Crime Agency, along with the Home Office, had significant intelligence on this lorry and the route that it was taking across Europe to the Channel for use by the Channel people smugglers, and that led to the lorry being intercepted and searched by border guards at this crossing in Bulgaria, and these boats being seized. Now, the National Crime Agency say that typically when these boats are inflated, they're 8 metres long. They would carry between 50 and 60 migrants. But we know from yesterday, the chaotic scenes in the Channel, that at least two of those boats were carrying more than 90 migrants each. They're highly dangerous and unsafe boats anyway, made in the back streets of sort of backstreet workshops in China and then transported through Turkey and then towards Europe. So it's a significant development. We have, according to the NCA, seen 650 boats and components like engines seized since early 2023. But this is the biggest seizure this year. It will be welcomed. However, I just want to put it into context. On a very busy day in the Channel, you can have up to 15 boats or more crossing that channel on one day. So it's what,
Mark,
two busy days worth.
You know, no offence to the NCA, who obviously do some very good work, but when we hear about smashing the gangs, do we really think of a dozen small boats being seized, Mark? Is that going to even make a dent in the problem?
It will make a difference to an extent, in that we will probably see a dip in supplies available to some of the people smugglers. And that might manifest itself in a few days where we maybe expect there to be quite a few crossings, for there not to be quite as many crossings. However, the thing to add, and you're quite right to put that caveat in there, Emily, these supply lines are very robust. The criminal gangs have had years to ensure that they have multiple supply lines. Should there be an issue with one particular supply route, they'll always have options that they can go to get boats to get across the channel.
Yeah. Well, it just seems ridiculous, given that we're trying to sort of do all the stuff upstream when we escort these boats across the channel. I mean, we follow them across the channel. We pick them up in the channel. It's just we put the people in England rather than returning them to France.
You're so right, and that was evident in spades yesterday when we saw Border Force completely overwhelmed. We saw every single French border patrol vessel and lifeboats controversially escorting these migrant boats across into UK waters. But when they reached UK waters, Border Force, there were so many at the same time, Border Force couldn't cope. It called on the RNLI, who get it in the neck all the time for acting as a taxi service in the minds of many people. Well, they had to send out lifeboats from Dungeness, from Ramsgate, from Walmart, from Dover. 5 lifeboats in total sent out to help Border Force because they were so overwhelmed.
And that's taking away lifeboats for people that may need them who are going to the beach on the coast of England.
Yeah, like you were saved by the RNLI, weren't you, in a dramatic incident?
Cliff-based
Well,
incident.
Mark White, thank you very much. Hope to speak to you again during the show to hear some more about this. But there you go, dozens of small boats seized. So there you go, a positive development, perhaps.
Absolutely. But in other positive developments, just 48 hours or thereabouts for you to become richer by £54,321 in our biggest ever giveaway to date. Yes, lines close tomorrow, so make sure you don't miss out. Here are the details.
Lines close tomorrow on your chance to win big. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
27 now. Heaven, Health and Beauty in Shropshire is celebrating the official unveiling of their royal warrant today.
Well, it's been recognised as the supplier of skincare products and treatments to Her Majesty the Queen after she first used the company's products 19 years ago. She's a loyal customer.
She is a loyal customer. Jack Carson has been getting the treatment.
I was just like, I wish my mum was here to see this.
There's a beaming smile on the face of Heaven, Health and Beauty founder Deborah Mitchell as she celebrates the unveiling of their royal warrant. Starting her business with £10 in her pocket in 1995, Deborah says she's worked from the ground up and started providing skincare treatments to Her Majesty the Queen 19 years ago. Today she says she's honoured to be a recipient of a royal warrant.
It is a feeling that you cannot explain, but I was very lucky before having the royal warrant when Camilla Parker Bowles was Camilla Parker Bowles, and I didn't tell anybody I did her treatments. It hit in the press, and then this product, which is the bee venom made from bees, makes the skin look younger using a Botox alternative.
The King and Queen have granted royal warrants to almost 400 companies that supply the royal household, with each one lasting up to 5 years. It also means those companies can display the royal arms on their products. Director and daughter of Deborah, Ella Mitchell, makes this business a family affair, and she's made sure the packaging is already getting a fresh look. Ella says she's proud the products are made in Britain.
The achievement itself, you feel proud to be British, and I think that's one of the core values of us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, just like week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Some breaking news coming into us. A man has been arrested on suspicion of poisoning children at a summer camp in Canal Lane.
Well, we have Mark White here with us, our Home Security Editor, to tell us a little bit more. I mean, what's happened here? What do we know?
Well, there's information coming through from Leicestershire Police about an incident at a summer camp in Stathern in the East Midlands, reported to them just in recent days. A number of children feeling unwell at that summer camp. There was a very significant emergency service response. East Midlands Ambulance Service set up a triage area to deal with children reporting multiple symptoms and feeling really quite unwell at times. 7 children, we understand, were taken to hospital. All have since been discharged. This incident happened on the 27th of July, so what's that, 4 days ago. They now confirmed that a 76-year-old man has been arrested, and that 76-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of deliberately administering poison or a noxious substance with a view to injuring individuals. He remains, we're told, in custody at this time. The investigation is now being led, we're told, by the East Midlands Special Operations Unit of the Major Incident Team. So clearly they're taking it very seriously. They say this is to allow a full and thorough investigation to take place to determine exactly what went wrong. So that's, as I say, what we know at the moment. Is not an awful lot of information, but just this very concerning issue around these children at this summer camp, taken ill to the point where they had to be triaged and taken to hospital. Thankfully, all have since been released. But this man, 76-year-old, not described any further than that, is in police custody, facing potential charges of deliberately administering a poison or noxious substance to these children.
Goodness me.
Yeah. Well, Mark, thank you for bringing us that. We should say that Detective Inspector Neil Holden, the senior investigating officer, has said, "We understand the concern this incident will cause to parents, guardians and the surrounding community. We're in contact with the parents and guardians of all children concerned. Please be reassured that we have several dedicated resources deployed and are working with partner agencies, including Children's Services, to ensure full safeguarding is provided to the children involved. We remain at the scene to carry out inquiries into the circumstances of what has happened and to continue to provide advice and support in the arena. This is a complex and sensitive investigation, and we will continue to provide updates to both parents and guardians and the public, and when we can."
OK, and we'll bring you updates as and when we get them too. But in other news, holidaymakers face a day of delays after flights were grounded across the entirety of Britain yesterday afternoon.
Well, radar issues caused a nationwide shutdown of airspace. It was a failure at NAT, the main air traffic control provider, particularly affected London's Heathrow and Gatwick airports.
Yes, apparently 150 or over 150 UK flights were grounded following the radar glitch. It's the second major failure in less than a year. So there are some who are calling for the head of the traffic control boss, calling for him to resign over this failure. Is that fair?
Well, we're joined now by the Associate Professor of Aviation and the Environment at Cranfield University, Guy Cratton. Guy, thanks for being with us. I mean, it does seem like it's a fairly strange thing to happen in a developed country that has had radar for more than 80 years. Why did it go wrong yesterday?
I think we should put this in perspective. It went wrong for an hour. They had a glitch. They very sensibly reduced the volume of air traffic and shut down arrivals and departures at several major airports because they were gone onto a backup system that requires them to reduce the volume of traffic to ensure everything is as safe as possible. And clearly, once they had got the system back up and running again, which they did within an hour, there were delays, and I know they're extremely frustrating if you're in the middle of it, that were an inevitability as they bring everything back up to speed again, and there's a little bit of a knock-on effect of that today. So honestly, these are very big, complex systems. Once in a blue moon, something does go wrong. Clearly, that needs to be worked on. But to call for somebody to lose their job because their organisation prioritised inconvenience over safety, if you see what I mean, they accepted the inconvenience to people but kept everybody safe, I think is missing the point.
Well, Guy, it is Mr. Ryanair, or the Chief Operating Officer there, Neil McMahon, who's saying this, calling for his head over this, saying it's outrageous that passengers are once again being hit with delays and disruption due to Martin Rolfe's continued mismanagement of NATS, he says. It's clear no lessons have been learned since the August 2023 NATS system outage. Passengers continue to suffer as a result of his incompetence, etc., etc. If he doesn't resign, then the Transport Secretary should act without delay to remove him and deliver urgent reform of NAT's shambolic ATC service. I mean, that's what the Ryanair have to say, but you think that's not fair?
I think it's not fair. And I fly regularly. I use these services. Yes, Britain is very crowded. Yes, they are sometimes under stress. But ultimately, we do have a very safe system. Safety is what really, really matters. And after that, yes, we want everybody to have a good, comfortable, timely travel, but not at the expense of safety. And safety was clearly prioritised yesterday, as it absolutely should be.
Yeah, I think Ryanair's probably lost quite a bit of money.
Well, also, they've got a lot of
compensation they have to pay out and everything else. So I can see why they're angry.
Well, I think it's sort of not really buck passing, because it is up to the air traffic controllers, but I suppose they need something to tell their customers to say that, look, we're angry about this too. But but perhaps, Guy, you're right that this was a safety-first approach. Guy Cratton, thank you very much for joining us, Associate Professor of Aviation and Environment. Appreciate your time.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GBNews. We've got lots more coming up. Yes, GPs are now threatening winter strikes. So we had the resident doctors, junior doctors, and now we have the GPs threatening strikes over Wes Streeting's NHS rescue plan. More doctors and more nurses are set to join. Stick with us.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Quite warm and humid across the south today, and there is a Met Office yellow thunderstorm warning in place. Not everywhere in the warning area will catch a downpour, but where they do occur, they could cause some problems with a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. This weather front is the main focus for those thundery showers. We've already seen one or two, and continued risk through the afternoon across these southernmost counties of England in particular. As I said, hit and miss, but where they do occur, a lot of rain could fall in a short space of time, potentially giving some local flooding. Further north, well, a few scattered light showers, many places dry, cloudy, and a little fresher than yesterday, and still quite warm and humid across the south. Now, as I said, these downpours will continue into the evening. Parts of East Anglia down towards Dorset. That's the main area at risk, but not everywhere in that zone will catch the downpours. But as I said, where they do occur, they could cause some local flooding, certainly a lot of spray and surface water on the roads. A few lighter showers across northern England, the odd one coming into Northern Ireland and westernmost parts of Scotland. And staying pretty grey across the far northeast with thicker cloud and rain and drizzle at times, just edging back up towards the Northern Isles. Now, as we go through the evening time, the thundery showers across the south should tend to fade away. That warning is in place until 9 o'clock this evening. Then we'll see thicker cloud returning to some parts of northeast England, the odd little bit of showery rain here and there, and a few showers continuing to feed into northern Scotland. But many places becoming dry overnight, temperatures dipping down into the low teens for most of us. On to Friday's weather, and generally a drier day across the south. Still not completely dry, quite cloudy in eastern England. Some light rain and drizzle at times on the coast, and inland we'll see some showers breaking out from northern England down across the Midlands towards the southeast. Not as heavy as today's, and many western areas will stay dry and bright with some sunny spells. Temperatures mostly high teens or low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M74 southbound at Junction 4 is restricted after a road incident. Drivers should anticipate slow movement. In Surrey, a collision on the M3 eastbound exit slip at Junction 2 has closed all lanes. Road users are urged to find alternative routes. In Windsor and Maidenhead, the M4 westbound between junctions 7 and 8 has 3 lanes closed due to a collision. Expect delays and consider diversions. And on the trains, Hull Trains and London North Western Railway operate reduced services due to industrial action. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 20 to 1.
Yes, now family doctors, GPs, they could be the next to strike if apparently Wes Streeting doesn't act fast.
Well, GPs have issued 6 urgent demands of the Health Secretary, and if they're not met by mid-September, well, winter could bring more NHS chaos.
So the Health Secretary's big 10-year plan might just be heading for its first major roadblock.
Well, it's one thing for medical professionals to strike over summer when demand is low, but to strike during winter, that's a different kettle of fish. Let's speak to a GP now, Dr. Dean Eggett. Dean, thanks so much for being with us. What exactly are GPs complaining about here?
Hi, Tom and Emily. So we all know the NHS is in a terrible state. Patients can't get appointments. We don't have the capacity to house more people in our practice to look after people. And quite frankly, we don't have the access to the resources we need to employ more people. So we board more staff to be able to have more rooms and to provide more care for patients. But the NHS 10-year plan that recently came out, Wes Streeting's new flagship way of what the NHS is going to look like in 10 years, doesn't really address those concerns. So the BMA is worried that Wes Streeting has essentially ignored what GPs are saying about what we need to be able to provide.
Can I just challenge you ever so slightly on the idea that there aren't enough people to work in the NHS? I mean, the NHS in England alone has 1.5 million people working for it. I mean, clearly this is a terrible management.
Yeah, the NHS is an absolutely huge employer, and in general practice we have a great many people working, but what we don't have is necessarily more doctors. So what we
Isn't that because the BMA put various rules and restrictions on who can actually apply to medicine and made it very difficult for people here in Britain to actually get a place in medical school, and that's why we're so dependent on foreign doctors coming over to fill gaps and people working for agencies and the like. I mean, is it not protectionism from the BMA that's led to this in some ways?
So one thing I should point out is that I'm not here representing the BMA, so you're not going to hear a BMA voice, you're going to hear a GP's voice here.
That's fine. I'm interested in your perspective on how we got to this place.
Well, how we got to this place essentially was poor workforce planning well over a decade ago. So we didn't generally have enough doctors to be in the system that we have now. So quite frankly, even if we employed every unemployed doctor currently, we still don't have a workforce strong enough to be doctor-led and doctor-delivered.
Yeah, but why is that, Dean? That's why I'm asking. Why is that? Because there are thousands and thousands of young people who would love to be doctors. It's one of the most popular courses that people apply for and they're that for one reason or another they don't get onto the course and whatever else. So we've got all these people who do want to be doctors. Why isn't it filtering through?
So a couple of reasons. One, because training places at universities weren't opened up early enough. I don't believe that was a BMA decision. I believe that's a government and university decision to allow more training places at universities to study medicine. But when you come out of university to study medicine, you have to have a place in the NHS to work. So you have a training place in the NHS, and you then might train for somewhere between 5 and 8 or 10 years. And at the end of that, you then need to have a consultant place. So there are 3 points here. First of all, getting into university, getting a place to work in the NHS, and then getting a consultant or a GP post. But that is the responsibility of NHS England, NHS employers and the government and the universities. And over the last decade or more, they have fumbled that and struggled to come up with the right workforce planning so that we've got a doctor-led service. Now, one might question whether or not that was a mistake, whether or not that's planning. Yeah. Because doctors are expensive. So do you really want a doctor-led service that costs a fortune? Or do you want a non-doctor-led service? And there's a big argument at the moment about whether or not that actually wasn't a mistake, but was planned so that we don't have a doctor-delivered and doctor-led service.
And yet, what we see from the NHS at the moment is, what is it, 25 billion more over the next 2 years going into the service, a huge amount of investment in terms of the tech that is going in there, the NHS app that we're all expected to download, where services should be much more tailored. In many ways, the job of a GP could be becoming more efficient over the course of the next couple of years. A sort of earlier and more effective triage service, people going to the right place or the right part of the NHS at the right time, and more integrated information. I mean, under that system, couldn't GPs actually, with the same amount of money that you get now, which is a considerable amount of money, be actually able to treat more patients more effectively thanks to technology?
Yeah, it sounds ideal, doesn't it? General practice should become more efficient and effective, and it has indeed over the past 10 years that I've talked about, has had to become more efficient and effective because we don't have that many GPs working for us. The problem is, and I liken this to a machine really, if you, or even your boiler at home, if you have a machine or a boiler or some sort of instrument working at 100% all the time, it will burn out and it will break. And we as human beings do that. So I never encourage anybody to have any machine or system working at 100% because you burn it out. And that's exactly what happens to us. So yes, we become more efficient. Yes, we can see more patients. But if I can see more patients in a day, I go home exhausted. So the next day I'm back, I'm actually less efficient. So 100% efficiency isn't the efficiency you think it is.
Yeah. And just lastly, I just want to ask if you're going to be striking, do you support the strikes?
No. So I don't strike. I never will strike. And I should point out, by the way, just to reassure listeners, that general practice isn't directly employed by the government, so therefore cannot directly strike against the government. GPs won't be striking. What GPs can do is take some form of collective action to frustrate the system, to make it harder for the government to deliver care. We don't actually know what that will look like, but it will not be a walkout strike by GPs.
Something different. OK. Dr. Dean, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Could ask you so many more questions, but we'll leave it there for time constraints.
Yeah, of course, it was the negotiations back in the 1940s, the GPs that still run their private practices, but funded by the state.
It's all rather confusing, isn't it, as a little business model? But if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Quite a messy picture across Europe at the moment. Some places will have decent dry weather, but there is also some heavy thundery rain around. Temperatures across parts of Greece and Turkey not as high as they were to start the week, but nonetheless still pretty hot. And with that hot air, we are seeing some hefty showers. Could be some thunder also across parts of northern Italy, and some fairly frequent showers across central parts of Spain. A few showery bursts across the Canary Islands as well. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather and more dry weather to come into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 1, and it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Yes, the Office for National Statistics has dropped the official top baby names in England and Wales for 2024. And it's a case of deja vu, with the top two names for girls and boys being Olivia and Mohammed once again.
Yes, they've topped the charts once again. There are a few surprise movers too. And of course, Tom being Tom has brought it all back to politics. So go on then.
OK, so the name Keir, for, I believe, the first
Spelled
time...
Spelled K-E-I-R.
Exactly. It has fallen out of the top baby names. Now, in order to appear in the ONS list...
There he is.
you have to have at least 3 babies called Baby Keir, for instance. Now, that was the case last year. I think it was 4 Baby Keirs.
Yeah.
This year, not a single one. And I wonder if that is if there's some politics at play here. Perhaps the unpopularity of this government has driven the name Keir to temporary extinction.
Yeah, I mean, you just wouldn't call your son Keir right now, would you?
Although the name Nigel has had a bit of a resurgence.
A renaissance.
Yes. Certainly. I think there are
There he is.
5 Nigels this year, which is...
5 Nigels.
In the whole of England and Wales.
Well, if you know a little baby Nigel, get in touch. Like to see a pic.
Absolutely, but isn't that an interesting comparison?
It is
Keir
interesting,
on the way down, Nigel on the way up, at least in baby names.
How's Jeremy doing? Because he's making waves, isn't he, Jeremy? Jeremy, there were 64 baby boys named Jeremy last year.
That is not many. Jeremy used to be a very popular name.
It did, but it's not very popular now. It peaked in the 60s, Tom,
now,
which is presumably when Jeremy Corbyn was born.
Emily, I can't help but notice that you're pregnant.
How dare you? I know I've put on a bit of weight, but...
I know that various people get into all sorts of trouble trying to guess whether women are pregnant or not.
I don't wear a badge. I like to, keep people guessing.
It is at this stage fairly obvious.
Yeah, it is fairly obvious, yeah.
So I was thinking of the list of top names. Are you thinking of a baby Olivia, a baby Mohammed? Are you thinking a baby Nigel?
Yeah, I mean, little baby Mohammed, little baby Mo, if it's a boy.
Yeah.
Possibly not, no. What's up there?
Do you see any of the names on the list that you like?
Oliver's quite a nice name, isn't it? George is a very nice name. Oscar. I know a couple of Oscars. Archie. Archie was my old dog, so not Archie.
No.
On the girls' side, Florence, Freya, Poppy. Do you know what? I'm not sure any of those names are going to be the one.
You don't think so?
No.
You want a more unique baby?
Oh, no, I'm not going to go all the, funny
a peculiar spelling that no other human being has ever done.
Oh, my name's Emily,
Yeah,
and Emily
standard.
is still very popular indeed, but Tom, no one calls their sons Tom anymore.
Tom peaked in the 1990s, as far as I'm concerned. I grew up surrounded by Toms. You couldn't move for Toms.
Tom, Dick and Harry.
And now you don't get many Toms. You don't get many baby Toms.
You probably don't get many Dicks either.
Probably not.
Harry's, though. I like the name Harry. Maybe Harry's the one.
Yeah.
Can't, because, if it's a boy, it'll be Ginger, won't it?
Oh, no, and then too many royal connotations there. Well, do stay with us here on Good Afternoon Britain. Much more to come after the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Quite warm and humid across the south today, and there is a Met Office yellow thunderstorm warning in place. Not everywhere in the warning area will catch a downpour, but where they do occur, they could cause some problems with a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. This weather front is the main focus for those thundery showers. We've already seen 1 or 2, and continued risk through the afternoon across these southernmost counties of England in particular. As I said, hit and miss, but where they do occur, a lot of rain could fall in a short space of time, potentially giving some local flooding. Further north, well, a few scattered light showers, many places dry, cloudy, and a little fresher than yesterday, but still quite warm and humid across the south. Now, as I said, these downpours will continue into the evening. Parts of East Anglia down towards Dorset. That's the main area at risk, but not everywhere in that zone will catch the downpours. But as I said, where they do occur, they could cause some local flooding, certainly a lot of spray and surface water on the roads. A few lighter showers across northern England, the odd one coming into Northern Ireland and westernmost parts of Scotland. It's staying pretty grey across the far northeast with thicker cloud and rain and drizzle at times, just edging back up towards the Northern Isles. Now, as we go through the evening time, the thundery showers across the south should tend to fade away. That warning is in place until 9 o'clock this evening. Then we'll see thicker cloud returning to some parts of northeast England, the odd little bit of showery rain here and there, and a few showers continuing to feed into northern Scotland. But many places becoming dry overnight, temperatures dipping down into the low teens for most of us. On to Friday's weather, and generally a drier day across the south. Still not completely dry, quite cloudy in eastern England. Some light rain and drizzle at times on the coast. And inland we'll see some showers breaking out from northern England down across the Midlands towards the southeast. Not as heavy as today's, and many western areas will stay dry and bright with some sunny spells. Temperatures mostly high teens or low 20s.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Oh, yes, I've got a bit of an update on this. So you know Steve Jobs' daughter is getting married this weekend. We talked about it earlier on in the week.
Yes,
Eve Jobs.
They're hiring the entire Cotswolds.
Yeah, we've got more details now.
Oh.
They're taking over the village of Great Chew. And apparently the budget is said to be $5 million. Could be a lot more, though.
$5 million?
Yeah,
because the papers were saying 50 million the other day.
$5 million could be higher.
For them.
But the high-end guest list includes Kamala Harris, Bono, the Kardashians and Princess Beatrice. Rumours as well that David Cameron's been invited.
Oh. But they can't know all these people.
They've invited 500 people. So it's a big wedding.
It's just like...
Apparently the village is in lockdown.
No, it will be.
Yeah, and they're going to Estelle Manor afterwards, which is a big, like, Jacobean manor house in the Cotswolds.
Oh.
And they've got sniffer dogs out already.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Of all those people, I bet they only know Bono.
But didn't you think the
Everybody
same with...
knows Bono, don't they?
Well, no, but at least he was involved with Apple. He must have known Steve Jobs.
Was he involved with Apple?
Yeah, because they had all the... Do you remember they had the U2 exclusive iPods and
Oh,
things when
of
they
course.
first
Yeah.
launched. So he must have known... So he probably knew her as a kid.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to give away Apple products.
Probably.
Oh, yeah. You know the good. You know the.
It's a goodie bag. You'll get a goodie bag.
At the end, yeah, like an iPad or
a goodie bag at your wedding.
Or a MacBook. I know, but you had the free-flowing rosé, which you don't drink.
I don't drink.
Anyway. Did you not try the non-alcoholic version?
Of rosé?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was one.
I covered all fronts.
I didn't know there was one.
Oh, well, you missed out.
I had some non-alcoholic beers.
Well, good. I did provide.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st of July. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
Well, England and Wales, the population has jumped by 700,000 in just 1 year. 98% of that is driven by immigration. Is that sustainable?
Yes, is it a party or a protest? Well, more than 1,000 anti-immigration protesters took to the streets in Waterlooville in Hampshire to oppose the government's plans to house asylum seekers in expensive new apartments.
Elsewhere, chaos continues from yesterday. The major air traffic control failure, which grounded flights nationwide. Over 150 cancellations, and it took 20 minutes just to switch to back up. Who's to blame?
Now it comes as a private group of companies revealed their rival Heathrow expansion plan. But get this, with a shorter runway than the other two. So some are asking, are we really hobbling this airport rather than going for a full runway? Well, the plans are interesting. We'll talk to the hotel tycoon behind them.
Elsewhere, Donald Trump is warning Canada it could lose out on a US trade deal because of its recognition of a Palestinian state.
And Microsoft says blue-collar jobs are the safest from AI. So is it time we all learned a trade to future-proof our jobs?
Couldn't hurt.
Although, of course, we should be saying that that was not a picture of Microsoft.
Right, OK, well, could being left out of a food run make you a victim? Well, one man just won over £5,000 after his boss skipped him on the burger order, and a tribunal apparently agreed. Lots to talk about today.
Absolutely.
If I was going to Greg's...
Yeah.
OK, if I was going to Greg's and I was, I asked everyone, I asked Sam Francis off of the news, and I asked our producer, and I asked, all the other presenters who are here what they wanted, what they fancied, and I didn't ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be workplace bullying, Tom?
No, I think you'd just probably assume that I'm
feeding yourself,
hungry, or that I've got my own food secretly under the desk as I ordinarily do. I don't think I'd feel particularly perturbed if you were to offer people food and that list didn't include me.
I mean, I think I'd probably just say something. I'd probably say, "Oi, Tom, include me. I want a sausage sandwich."
I don't think it would be the time to kick off a workplace tribunal.
But people do. I mean, you could go to these tribunals for anything, can't you? Really?
People do.
Yeah.
People do for all sorts of nonsense.
Like, imagine if I said, "Oh, you bully me because I've got ginger hair."
Have I ever made a comment about your ginger hair? You make comments about your ginger hair. That's
because I've learnt to own it. You see, so many years of saying no, I'm strawberry blonde, didn't serve me well. You just get bullied more.
I think a lot of this is just HR professionals trying to find something to do with their time. The UK has more HR professionals than just about any other developed country per person.
And DEI professionals.
We've got the largest HR industry in the developed world, I think I saw recently. And what do we get for it? I mean, we no wonder our productivity is relatively low when so many people are just hired for people management.
No offence to our glorious HR team here at GBNews.
Small and efficient HR teams. But so are these big corporate entities.
They're crazy.
Have HR teams of hundreds of people. It's like, what do they do all day? They look for problems to create, not problems to solve.
Oh, yeah. Workshops are plenty. Oh. You can't get away from the workshops on various issues.
A lot of companies feel like they have to do this because all the legislation that's been passed over the last 20 years saying that you need to have all of this equality, all of this inclusion. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean real equality. It means tick box exercises.
Yeah, lots of eye rolls. Anyway, gbnews.com/You're Safe. Follow along with us. But let's get to the headlines with Sam Francis.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. The government has said it won't enter a to and fro with Hamas over its plans to recognise a Palestinian state, insisting it doesn't negotiate with terrorists. The Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, says any future state must exclude Hamas and the hostages must be released. He also says the aim is to use recognition as a way to move the conflict forward for good, with aid reaching Gaza and a two-state solution on the table. It comes as Canada has now also joined the UK and France in backing statehood if reforms are made and Hamas is kept out. But the move's been slammed by Israel and Donald Trump, saying Canada could face 35% tariffs from Friday unless a deal is reached. Here, meanwhile, a 76-year-old man has been arrested after 8 children fell ill at a summer camp in Leicestershire. Police were called to the village of Staton on Monday, where a triage centre was set up and the children were taken to hospital as a precaution. We understand they have all now been discharged, but the man remains in custody on suspicion of administering a poison. Leicestershire police say they are working closely with the children's services and have also referred themselves to the police watchdog over how they initially responded to the incident. A major people smuggling operation has been disrupted after UK crime officers seized 25 small boats. The National Crime Agency says the inflatables, each capable of carrying up to 60 people, were found hidden in a lorry at a key border crossing used by trafficking gangs. They were destined for use in the English Channel, but officials are warning the type of boat is often dangerously overcrowded and completely unfit for the sea. It's the biggest boat seizure of the year so far and comes just a day after nearly 900 migrants reached UK shores, pushing this year's total past 24,500. The regulator Ofcom is cracking down on porn sites failing to protect children online. 4 companies running 34 adult websites combined are under formal investigation over their age check systems. The sites attract more than 9 million UK users each month, but Ofcom says it's not clear if they're keeping under-18s out. The regulator says the group of firms were prioritised due to high user numbers and potential risks of harm. Airlines are calling for heads to roll today after a technical glitch grounded over 150 UK flights during one of the UK's busiest travel weeks of the year. Ryanair and EasyJet say that disruption was outrageous and extremely disappointing, with Ryanair demanding the resignation of the air traffic control boss. The radar-related issue hit just after 4 p.m. and was resolved in under 20 minutes, but left thousands of passengers stranded. Departures have now resumed, but airlines want urgent reforms and passengers are still being urged to check before heading to the airport. The singer Jess Glynn says she feels sick after the White House used her hit song, Hold My Hand, in a meme-style video promoting deportations. That clip shows migrants in handcuffs boarding a plane with the viral Jet2 Holidays advert dubbed over the top. The voiceover actress Zoe Lister says she would have never condoned her work being linked with, quote, Trump and his abhorrent policies. Jess Glynn says her music is about love and positivity, never division or hate, as social media users are blasting the video as inhumane and embarrassing. And Mohammed has once again topped the list of baby boy names in England and Wales for the second year running at number 1. The name was most popular in 4 out of 9 English regions, according to new figures from the Office for National Statistics. Noah came in second, followed by Oliver, Arthur and Leo. For the girls, Olivia kept the crown for the 7th straight year, just ahead of Amelia, Lily and Isla. Other top 10 picks included Archie, Ivy, Oscar and Florence. Tom and Emily, nowhere in sight. Sadly, nor was Sam. Perhaps next year. Let's take a look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
And here's how the markets are shaping up for you this lunchtime. The pound will buy you $1.3229 and €1.1567. The price of gold is £2,493.32 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 9,177 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 1. Now, last night, 1,000 anti-immigration protesters demonstrated against plans to provide accommodation for new couples and parents seeking asylum in flats above shops in Waterlooville.
Yes, and in a letter to the current Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, wrote that such facilities made town centres no-go zones for the patriotic, common-sense majority, and she applauded these protests for being peaceful.
Well, joining us now is the Labour leader of Basildon Council, Councillor Gavin Callaghan. Gavin, thanks so much for being with us. There's huge concern in lots of communities up and down the country that not just hotels are being requisitioned, but actually some of these flats going for, 250,000 quid a pop. This is a huge amount of public expenditure for people who have just rocked up on a boat.
Well, good afternoon. Absolutely. It is a huge amount of money, and we inherited a real mess as a Labour government this time last year with the Conservatives' open door policy. I understand, I see it in my post bag here in Basildon every day, the strength of feeling that there is out there. But I think what we have seen over the course of the last year is that the government are taking this seriously. The government are listening to the protesters. They're understanding the strength of feeling. And although the migration numbers that have come out from the ONS in the last day or so are very, very high, they do show a steep decrease in the number of people.
Gavin, that's legal migration mainly. In terms of illegal migration, small boat arrivals, asylum seekers who will have to be put up in government-funded accommodation, that's up by 50% compared to last year.
And I think, well, look, again, what we have done is we've deported 35,000 people with no right to remain in the UK, of which 4,500 of those were people with criminal records. That is a massive increase in the number of deportations that a government has been able to do inside 1 year. I think on the issue of asylum seekers, the key thing for me that I've been looking at is how quickly are we now dealing with that backlog? How quickly are we making decisions and then, where possible, returning people with no right to remain in the country? And that now is around about 50% quicker than it was, so 2 times quicker than it was under the last Conservative government. So the investment that the Labour government has made in the processing of asylum seekers is starting to bear fruit in terms of the number of people being dealt with and then deported as well.
I mean, you're the Labour leader of Basildon Council in Essex, not too far from Epping, where the protests broke out over the hotel there following an alleged sexual assault by one of the men living there. But do you think Labour gets this? Because Tower Hamlets in London also issue with the Big Britannia Hotel potentially being used for housing all of a sudden, even though there were still hotel bookings and people arriving at the door. And the Labour group there started talking about the far right, started talking about right-wing extremists seeking to use this moment to stir up racial hatred against refugees, etc., etc. We will always welcome refugees. Do you think everyone in the Labour movement gets that people are right to have concerns?
Well, look, for me, we don't have any asylum hotels in Basildon, and we've put protections in place through our planning policies to enable us to protect local the local housing market from asylum seekers or from anybody outside the borough being able to buy up properties when they come onto the market. What I would say is
hang on, so the Home Office couldn't come to you and say, we're going to requisition this accommodation for the use of, or hotels as well?
So existing properties, they would, in the free market, they'd be able to buy them the same way that you or I would have on existing houses. But brand new properties, we have something here called the Basildon First Charter, where those properties have to be marketed solely for Basildon Borough residents for the first 12 months. Now, that was a policy I introduced because I understand, as a Labour leader, the strength of feeling that exists here. What I would say on hotels is that we've halved the number of hotels as a government inside a year, and we've saved about £1 billion on the bill for the taxpayer. So the policy that the government has...
Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because the numbers have increased drastically and these people are being put up, and we've seen an expansion of hotels being requisitioned, have we not?
No, so the number of hotels is down from around 400 to just over 200, and the bill has gone down from 3 billion to around 2.1 billion. The issue for me is, as you're alluding to, if they're not going into hotels, then where are asylum seekers going, and where are they being held? And for us, in places like Basildon, but also next door in Epping and other parts of Essex, we are seeing people being put into the kind of housing that you've described in your piece there. But look, what I would say is the Labour Party absolutely do understand this. I know this won't necessarily find its way onto the front page of the Daily Mail and some of those stories, but the bill is coming down in terms of the hotels because we get that.
Gavin, is that completely up to date? Because it is true, absolutely, for the first 6 months, maybe 8 months that the Labour government was in power, there was a trend of fewer and fewer hotels that began under the previous government, obviously fewer arrivals. We have seen more and more hotels being requisitioned in the last month or so, perhaps the last 2 months. Are you sure that your data is completely up to date with this latest wave of arrivals that we've seen over these summer months?
So as far as the statistics are concerned, the number of hotels that are being used is now almost halved. And the amount of money that the taxpayer is spending on those hotels is down by almost £1 billion. So that was as of last Friday, that was the position when it comes to hotels. Now, I don't doubt that won't necessarily mean there'll be some movement in that. Some hotels close.
Higher than it was 3 months ago, but lower than it was 2 years ago.
Perhaps, but from our point of view, the government is clear that by the end of this Parliament, we will not be using hotels to house asylum seekers. Now, look, the quickest way to deal with this is to speed up the applications process, to put the resource into finding out whether or not people do have the right to remain, and if they don't, then they need to be deported.
Yeah, you know as well as anyone else how hard it is to actually deport people who don't have a case here, but we'll have to leave it there. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate hearing from what's going on in Basildon. Councillor Gavin Callaghan, Labour leader of Basildon Council. I guess the issue is you can get rid of hotels, fine, but of course you're buying up the lower end of the rental market, aren't you, really? But Mark White, any thoughts on that, just before we move on to your next story?
Well, this is the next big emerging issue as far as the country is concerned, because you've got a entirely unacceptable situation where hundreds of hotels are in use, and yes, it's right that they have come down, and people see these community assets being taken out of commission for sometimes years at a time. That's a big problem. But we're moving now from a phase of mainly men being housed in these hotels in a location within a town that people know about, and they're being managed within that hotel environment, to being dispersed right out into the community to a street near you. And it can be houses of multiple occupations, so it's not necessarily one asylum seeker, but perhaps a dozen asylum seekers in a property on your street. So there will be, without a doubt, and there is already, we're seeing it manifesting in communities across the country, tensions now that are resulting from the fact that migrants are being moved out of hotels and right into the heart of the sort of the communities, the streets that people live on. So yes, it's to be welcomed that hotels are going back to public use again, but the downside, and it's a big downside, is that these asylum seekers, mainly men, are going into communities right into the heart with all the potential problems that, you know, then manifest from that.
And this is before the claims have even been processed, right? So, yes, potentially undocumented men just living 12 in a house next to you.
And there will be more, because if they go down the road of having to get rid of all hotels, as they promised, before the next election, that's hundreds of more hotels that they are going to take out of use, many thousands of migrants who will be dispersed into the wider community.
Well, like
at a time
we're seeing in Waterlooville.
Yes, absolutely. And at a time when we're seeing record numbers of crossings. So all of the while, you would think it's a bit counterintuitive to get rid of hotels when you're stacking up with people coming across the channel. But this is what they want to embark on. So more and more people are going into more and more communities, and it's leading, I'm afraid, to more and more.
I think some people would prefer hotels, to be honest.
Well, you know, it's possibly as bad as they were. I think for many people, it's the least worst option. Now that option is no longer going to be available.
Although I suppose with hotels you do get this concentration, and some of the most visceral opposition has been this group of, you know, 20 and 30-something-year-old men near a school, for example. And the concentration can be more overwhelming. I want to ask you, Mark, though, given that these numbers keep on rising, 50% higher than we were last year, the government is clearly trying to get these numbers down. One of the ways they're trying to do this is with the National Crime Agency working upstream, trying to stop the means of the gangs procuring boats and the like. Do we have an update on that?
We have a couple of updates we can bring you. Yes, you're right. The National Crime Agency, in conjunction with law enforcement partners in Bulgaria, stopped a consignment of 25 small boats that were due to come through Europe to the Channel coast, to come across the English Channel to be used by people smugglers. So that's to be welcomed and shows the good work that the National Crime Agency is doing to try to get on top of what is an enormous situation. And to give you an indication of just how enormous that situation is, we can now confirm that the numbers for yesterday, which have just come through from the Home Office, we had said just under 900. The Home Office have confirmed that 898 small boat migrants came across the English Channel yesterday in 13 small boats. So that's
only 13.
So that gives you an indication of the first element we were talking about there, the National Crime Agency smashing this particular supply line and taking 25 small boats out. Well, 2 days worth of this, and that's 25 more than 25 small boats.
So that's an average of 69 per boat.
And we know, actually, that at least 2 of those small boats had more than 90 on. So some had slightly less than that, but some had a lot more.
Yeah.
And it can just, it can change per boat. Okay. Sometimes you get 40, 50, sometimes you get 90.
Well, it sounds like you were spot on with your estimates. Mark White, thank you very much indeed.
Thank Chris, our producer,
yes,
down there,
Chris.
with his clicker, who is very, very accurate in what he sees and puts us a day ahead of everybody else and getting
really, really important reporting.
It's fantastic work from Chris. I'm not sure if I've actually met Chris, so thank you for all the good work you've been doing.
I'll introduce him to you.
That would be nice, actually. I mean, seeing as we use his figures all the time.
Yeah, he'll be clicking us in and out of the party. But we should move on now, because a nuclear startup is pulling out of the United Kingdom, despite the Environment Secretary's promising to have a nuclear renaissance in this country. No, the Environment Secretary is indeed failing to support this £4 billion proposal that this startup has.
Yeah, so they're shelving their plans to build a fleet of mini nuclear reactors in Britain, and this will significantly scale back its UK operations.
Instead, the company now is going to shift focus to France, where it's going to develop a new nuclear facility.
Well, joining us now is former Chief Executive Energy UK, Angela Knight, CBE. Angela, thank you very much indeed. I mean, this is a bit of a disaster. Weren't these small modular nuclear reactors right up there in the priorities for Ed Miliband?
Yes, well, they're right up there in the priority of the country, but there has always been a case that Ed Miliband never seems to really focus on nuclear at all. Now, there is a proposition from Rolls-Royce, as you know, and they're supported to build 3 of these small-scale nuclear reactors, and I think that that is a really, really good thing. This particular project, though, that has been seeking to do something more here in the UK, nuclear they call it, it's a different sort of small-scale technology. Things are never quite necessarily exactly the same. And this one, as I understand it, proposes to use liquid lead as the coolant, whereas what Rolls-Royce does is it effectively is small-scale, the traditional pressurized water reactor coolant. So these are 2 different things. This one here that is proposing to go off to France now, I think it's a great pity that we haven't supported it, but it probably does need longer to get itself operational than does the Rolls-Royce version of small-scale nuclear reactors.
Angela, we've been talking about small modular reactors since, I think, the first time the government sort of started to say there'd be a competition was back in 2017 or thereabouts.
Oh, I know.
I mean, surely, if the government really believes we're in a climate emergency and that we need all of this clean power, I mean, why have they been so slow about even deciding which companies are going to build these things, let alone granting the planning permission or anything else?
Well, I totally agree with you on that, actually, because I think that the technology is known, or at least a lot of the technology is known, and other parts of the world, small-scale nuclear reactors of the Rolls-Royce type are being built. There is a real need in this country. You can do these small-scale ones quickly. They come at a price which makes them investable, and you can put them, of course, where the existing infrastructure is. And yet, because it seems to me that there's a sort of quite a wide cross-section of the political class which says, oh no, we shouldn't do nuclear, we have to a certain extent delayed and delayed and delayed. And that's a real pity, because it is a low-carbon technology, but it's also a secure technology. And unlike renewables, you don't have to have another lot of power generation just on standby for the time that the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine.
Well, absolutely.
So I'm sorry this company is going. I hope that at the very least we now put a huge amount of impetus and effort to help Rolls-Royce get itself operational as quickly as possible in this country. And, France has got a big nuclear fleet, and if you've got some sort of pretty new technology, which the lead cooling is, then it's probably not a bad place to go. And good luck to them and it's our loss here in this country.
Yeah, shame we're not getting that innovation. Angela Knight, thanks indeed for joining us and talking through a frustrating story this afternoon.
A government spokesperson has said, though, we are launching a golden age of nuclear to help deliver clean power, because by taking back control of our energy, we will protect family finances, boost energy security and tackle the climate crisis. We will shortly be setting out plans to provide a pathway for private sector-led advanced nuclear projects to be deployed onto the grid and supply industrial users. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got lots more coming up.
Yes, fury as a Scottish Liberal Democrat MP is accused of justifying Hamas hostage-taking. Calls grow for his suspension after despicable remarks. We'll reveal all after this.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 1:30. Now, a Scottish MP has come under fire after describing Hamas's continued captivity of Israeli hostages as being the only bargaining power the terror group has left.
Yes, this MP is Angus MacDonald, and he's been branded despicable after suggesting that if Hamas were to release the hostages taken during its 2023 attack, Israel would go on to obliterate Palestine.
Well, the Liberal Democrats are now facing mounting pressure to suspend MacDonald, with critics accusing him of displaying vile moral bankruptcy in his comments about those victims of Hamas.
OK, well, joining us now is the political editor at the Scottish Daily Mail, Michael Blackley, who's written this story up. Michael, tell us, what's the accusation here, then, against this MP?
Yeah, so this is extremely controversial comments from the Highlands MP, Angus MacDonald. He was he was posting on Facebook initially just supporting the idea of the UK recognising Palestine as a separate state. But one of his constituents then picked him up on the issue and questioned him a bit further. And in response to this, Angus MacDonald had actually said that he had pretty much defended the defended Hamas taking Israeli people hostage. It's really controversial because it's very, very unusual for an MP to be defending hostage holding. The Liberal Democrats, in response to this, have said that he wasn't defending hostage taking, but it seems pretty clear to the constituent that picked him up on this that these are comments defending hostage holding, which is pretty beyond the pale.
Almost giving a moral justification for Hamas to continue holding these hostages more than a year, what is it, almost 2 years now after October the 7th. I mean, I suppose I'm trying to construct a devil's advocate defence, but could he have been toying with an intellectual argument as to why the government should just grant statehood and almost sort of ignore the fact that hostages are still being held?
Well, if that was the case, why have we not yet had an explanation from this MP as to what he was trying to say? I've been contacting him and his party, looking to see if he would apologise to those that he's concerned over this. There's been absolutely no sign of an apology so far, so that is why that is triggering the calls for him to be suspended by the Liberal Democrats. That's something that they haven't done. Indeed, the Scottish Liberal Democrats, which are responsible for his membership, have pretty much defended the comments that he's made, and there's going to be a big political backlash to this. We've already heard from Israeli groups like the Glasgow Friends of Israel group. The Campaign Against Anti-Semitism is also calling for him to be suspended. The Scottish Conservatives are demanding action from the Liberal Democrats against him. It's really the pressure is growing on him to apologise and for his party to actually take firm action on this.
So as it stands, we've heard nothing from him in the way of an apology or an explanation. The Liberal Democrat Party up in Scotland are saying that they are standing by him. Please do let us know if we hear anything else, perhaps from Angus MacDonald himself. Michael Blackley, thank you very much, political editor at the Scottish Daily Mail.
Now, we should say that a Scottish Liberal Democrat spokesperson has said Angus wasn't defending or justifying hostage-taking. He was describing the widely accepted view that Hamas is very regrettably using the hostages as leverage against Israel. Angus and the Scottish Liberal Democrats have been completely clear that Hamas should release the hostages immediately and unconditionally, and that there is no place for the terror group in the future of Gaza. Angus has used his position as an MP to campaign for the release of the hostages and has made clear on the parliamentary record his disgust at Hamas's treatment of the hostages.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Next, Donald Trump warns Canada it could lose out on a US trade deal altogether because of its support for the recognition of a Palestinian state. More on that next.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story from the newsroom. Canada has joined UK and France in pledging to recognise a Palestinian state if, they say, conditions are met. But the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, insists Hamas must be excluded from power. Here, 5 Conservative MPs are demanding an urgent meeting with the Home Secretary as concerns mount over the growing use of hotels for asylum seekers. Suella Braverman warns it could overwhelm public services after nearly 900 migrants crossed the Channel just yesterday, bringing the total this year to 25,400. Ryanair and EasyJet are both demanding air traffic control reforms after what the airlines describe as outrageous disruption. Over 150 UK flights were grounded after a radar glitch. It's the second major failure in less than a year. Junior doctors will return to talks with the government after a 5-day strike. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says no more pay talks, but working conditions will be discussed. Jess Glynn has slammed the White House for using her hit song Hold My Hand in a video promoting deportations. She says it's sick. The viral Jet2 holiday advert, which has been used millions of times in TikToks, has faced backlash for being used in a political context. And Mohammed has claimed the top spot for baby boy names in England and Wales for the second consecutive year. For girls, Olivia reigns supreme. Other popular names include Archie, Ivy, Oscar and Florence. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 2.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Quite warm and humid across the south today, and there is a Met Office yellow thunderstorm warning in place. Not everywhere in the warning area will catch a downpour, but where they do occur, they could cause some problems with a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. This weather front is the main focus for those thundery showers. We've already seen 1 or 2, and continued risk through the afternoon across these southernmost counties of England in particular. As I said, hit and miss, but where they do occur, a lot of rain could fall in a short space of time, potentially giving some local flooding. Further north, well, a few scattered light showers, many places dry, cloudy, and a little fresher than yesterday, and still quite warm and humid across the south. Now, as I said, these downpours will continue into the evening. Parts of East Anglia down towards Dorset. That's the main area at risk, but not everywhere in that zone will catch the downpours. But as I said, where they do occur, they could cause some local flooding, certainly a lot of spray and surface water on the roads. A few lighter showers across northern England, the odd one coming into Northern Ireland and westernmost parts of Scotland, and staying pretty grey across the far northeast with thicker cloud and rain and drizzle at times, just edging back up towards the Northern Isles. Now, as we go through the evening time, the thundery showers across the south should tend to fade away. That warning is in place until 9 o'clock this evening. Then we'll see thicker cloud returning to some parts of northeast England, the odd little bit of showery rain here and there, and a few showers continuing to feed into northern Scotland. But many places becoming dry overnight, temperatures dipping down into the low teens for most of us. On to Friday's weather, and generally a drier day across the south. Still not completely dry, quite cloudy in eastern England. Some light rain and drizzle at times on the coast, and inland we'll see some showers breaking out from northern England down across the Midlands towards the southeast. Not as heavy as today's, and many western areas will stay dry and bright with some sunny spells. Temperatures mostly high teens or low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the A9 Dornoch Bridge should proceed with caution due to strong winds. The eastbound M4 at junction 48 Hendy is closed for maintenance with diversions in place. On the M6 southbound between junctions 41 and 40 in Cumbria, expect a 30-minute delay due to congestion. A collision has closed 3 lanes on the M4 westbound between junctions 7 and 8. A broken-down vehicle on the M5 northbound between junction 20 and 19 in North Somerset has reduced lanes to 3. And on the trains, Hull trains have reduced services due to industrial action. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 2. Now, President Trump has said a trade deal with Canada could be off the cards after its Prime Minister announced plans to recognise a Palestinian state.
Yes, the US President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform, "It will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them." This comes after recent announcements by France and the United Kingdom signalling plans to recognise a Palestinian state very soon indeed.
Well, joining us now is the Israel Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation and former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nahum. Fleur, thanks so much for being with us. This is a big step for Donald Trump to post on his Truth Social account, that there could be sort of geopolitical and trade repercussions for countries that recognise a Palestinian state.
Well, thank God somebody's got some moral clarity on this issue.
because all these countries have managed to do with these empty declarations. I say empty because they don't know what the borders of this Palestinian state, they don't know who the leaders are. Is it Mahmoud Abbas, who's been in power for 20 years without an election? It's obviously not Hamas, who are a proscribed terrorist group in the UK. So they don't really know who they're going to be recognizing. They don't know what the borders of this recognition is. The whole thing seems so performative. But what President Trump has understood is that these declarations essentially strengthen the hand of Hamas not to come to the table and actually make a ceasefire deal. They've now made the return of the hostages impossible. That's what these empty declarations have done. And you have, ex-hostages, especially the British hostage, Emily Damari, who has come out against it, and quite rightly, because she knows that now Hamas have zero incentive to come to the table and to negotiate a deal for a ceasefire and for the return of the hostages, because all they have to do, according to Keir Starmer, is wait till September, and they're going to get a prize called the Declaration of a Palestinian State of the UN.
Has Donald Trump made this warning against any other country besides Canada? Because, of course, as you say, we heard from Keir Starmer earlier this week saying that by September there could be this recognition of a Palestinian state unless Israel commits to various conditions. Has he made this, or is it just Canada he's choosing to set his sights on?
Well, I think he's got a bone to pick with Canada. They are their bordering neighbors. But I could put my hand on fire that he's having conversations also with Keir Starmer and also with Macron. I mean, we know what he said already about Macron's declaration. He said, what does it matter what he says? It's insignificant. I wish it was insignificant. Unfortunately, in terms of the negotiating position of Israel versus a terrorist group, Hamas, it actually makes our position much weaker, unfortunately. And that, in the end, means that 20 lives of living hostages, living in tunnels, being abused and starved, that is not going to get solved because of their declarations.
There is something slightly confusing about this all, because, of course, these three countries, the first three G7 countries to ever say they'll accept Palestinian statehood as soon as this September, they all say that Hamas can't be anything to do with the government of this accepted Palestinian state. But then Hamas does currently run Gaza, and I don't quite understand how Hamas stops running Gaza voluntarily. Are these countries suggesting they're going to join in with the military action? I mean, what happens next?
Well, that's why it's so empty and vacuous, this whole thing. I'll tell you why. Because instead of making declarations about the Palestinian state, why don't they make a declaration like the Arabs have done, actually, about getting rid of Hamas? Why put all the conditions on Israel about the ceasefire, about the settlements, and zero conditions on the Palestinian leadership? Why don't you ask the Palestinian leadership and say, well, the condition for you is that you have to renounce violence. The condition for you is that you have to accept that Israel is not going to be destroyed. Because even Mahmoud Abbas, considered the moderate, the one that the UK sends money to, pays terrorist pensions to kill Jews. Even the moderate is teaching in an educational system that is teaching children, Palestinian children, from the moment they're born, that the best thing they can do with their lives is martyr themselves for the cause. And by the way, the British government also give money to this poisonous educational system.
Just to put the government side on this, I suppose they would say, and Keir Starmer did say in his statement, that the point of all this is that Israel will feel the pressure to essentially end the war on Gaza and prevent further deaths in the area. I mean, is there any chance of Benjamin Netanyahu being pressured by these types of declarations?
They want us to end the war in Gaza and leave a murderous terrorist regime ruling Gaza. Is that what they want?
Well, he says that he wants Israel to lead with a ceasefire.
Again, if we lead with a ceasefire, then we haven't gotten rid of the threat on our southern border, and we could have a massacre again anytime. So according to Keir Starmer, he's very brave with our lives, isn't he? So he's very brave to announce a Palestinian state when it's not his children fighting in a war that we'd never start. Israel has never started any single war. And in fact, we've made peace with every single Arab country that has wanted peace with us. Jordan, Egypt, the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, all the countries that have accepted that we exist, that accepted that we're not going away, and the one peace have found peace with us. So what exactly does he want us to do with Hamas? He's not helping us get rid of them. He's strengthening their hand.
It's a compelling case, but of course we're seeing public opinion in countries like the United Kingdom shift against Israel because it looks like Israel has won. Quite frankly, it looks like Hamas cannot tomorrow carry out the same sort of atrocity that they did almost 2 years ago on October the 7th. I mean, the leadership of Hamas are all dead or no longer in Gaza. Gaza is reduced in many parts of the place to rubble. I mean, this is no longer the organisation, the powerful terrorist group that it once was.
Well, you're right. There's definitely a much more weakened terrorist group. But as long as they continue to rule the Gaza Strip, they've said it again, they will regroup. They've got plenty of bad actors sending them money and sending them help. And so all we're doing, if we don't decide to finish with Hamas, is kicking the can down the road. So instead of the massacre being next year, instead of the next war with Gaza being in a year's time, it'll be in 5 years' time. Then what did we do for our children if all we're doing is kicking down the can? You know, the Palestinians have an option here. You can decide to be in conflict with Israel for the end of days, or you can decide to accept that we're not going anywhere, come to some type of peace arrangement and see what prosperity and growth looks like.
Would that include a Palestinian state?
Look, ultimately, I believe in the self-determination of the Palestinian people. We need to give them all the tools for them to be autonomous, but none of the weapons for them to destroy us. It's a big dilemma.
OK, well, Fleur Hassan Nahum, thank you very much indeed. Very interesting to talk to you. Israel Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation and former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem.
Well, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, perhaps not quite as far as Gaza, here's the weather in Europe.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Quite a messy picture across Europe at the moment. Some places will have decent dry weather, but there is also some heavy thundery rain around. Temperatures across parts of Greece and Turkey not as high as they were to start the week, but nonetheless still pretty hot. And with that hot air, we are seeing some hefty showers. Could be some thunder also across parts of northern Italy and some fairly frequent showers across central parts of Spain. A few showery bursts across the Canary Islands as well. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather and more dry weather to come into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I'm
Absolutely.
so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did you enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Honestly. Why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience. The thing is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but it really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's my job.
Cliches.
That's my job. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know, though, for how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won it. It was brilliant.
Would it have been better? I was still going to say.
Are you looking at you?
You know, but in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it. And they were underdogs. I mean, they were. You'll have players that will say, oh, no, I don't think so. And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it, but the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions. And also, pound for pound, if you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you, they would have been the better side. But it's a
team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management. And you could see that. And when it came to penalties, there was one side that were going to win it, and I just thought it was us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1:51. Now, a new report has revealed nearly £2 million of your money was budgeted by NHS trusts for hundreds of internal inclusion events over the last 2 years.
Yes, from pronoun parties to Eurovision screenings. Critics argue it could be a waste, especially with frontline staff striking and patients stuck on never-ending waiting lists. So the question is, are their priorities out of sync?
I don't know, you'd quite like a Eurovision screening. You probably think that's a good use of money.
Yeah, but not good use of work time. I do that in my own time.
Elliot Keck from Taxpayers Alliance joins us. Elliot, what have you got against celebrating International Pronouns Day?
Well, I think if you want to take a day of annual leave and celebrate International Pronouns Day, you're more than welcome to. NHS staff get an extraordinary amount of annual leave. They get something like 30 days a year, so that's 30 times you can celebrate International Pronouns Day. I think that is plenty of time. But listen, taxpayers' money shouldn't be going towards this. Taxpayer time in particular shouldn't be going towards this. The fact that this is so rife across NHS trusts suggests that we may have too many staff in our NHS, and that may be...
Oh my God, goodness, Elliot, I'm just looking at some of these events. An event on embracing asexuality took place at the Princess Alexandra Hospital NHS Trust in Essex. Embracing asexuality, that's when you don't fancy anyone.
Yeah, it's where you choose. Well, I think you can have romantic feelings towards someone, but you're not having sex with them, or you're abstaining from sex, and that's something that I would expect everybody to be doing at work
You've got to embrace
anyway. But yeah, listen.
Good point.
Exactly. So I think we should all be embracing asexuality at work all the time. But listen, yeah, £2 million spent over the last 2 years, 800 networks, over 1,000 events. And of course, if one event lasts an hour and 10 people turn up, that's 10 hours of staff time that has been used for that event. And as we know, waiting lists are still at around 7.5 million. Only about 75% are being seen in under 4 hours at A&E. The NHS is in crisis, and yet staff are finding time to waste on these absurd and pointless events that benefit certainly not taxpayers or patients. And I question even if they benefit the staff themselves.
Well, what about this one? Embracing your afro curly hair at the University College London Hospital NHS Trust.
Well, I don't have afro curly hair.
Well, you know, some people do.
Well, I suppose they can embrace it at home. But Elliot, some people will say, OK, yeah, millions of pounds, but out of an NHS budget of more than £100 billion. What are we on? £180 billion, something like that. I mean, it's a drop in the ocean, is it not?
Yeah, of course it is. I think, you know, I'd be cautious about that attitude. There's lots of drops in the ocean does make an ocean after all. And actually, I think I'm more interested in actually the staff time. So 1,000 events over the last couple of years. If you assume that, you know, maybe you get 10 people at each event, that's 10,000 hours. If you take into account the amount of time spent on planning those events and doing all the admin and the invites, etc.
You're absolutely right. It all builds up, Elliot, very quickly. Sorry, we're going to have to leave it there because we've run out of time. And a spokesperson has said staff networks can play an important role in retaining staff and reducing absenteeism, improving care and saving costs.
Indeed, adding many staff events, including ones highlighted here, are run at very low cost, but where employers do invest in staff, it is important that care is taken to ensure it represents good value for taxpayers' money.
OK, we'll be back in a second.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight tonight, the heavy thundery showers that we've seen across the south will be clearing away. In many places, we'll have a fresher night with some clearer spells. But right now, still some downpours across parts of the south. Met Office yellow warning in place and potential for some local flooding and certainly a lot of spray and surface water on the roads. But those hefty downpours do pull away. We'll keep some showers coming into parts of eastern England and northern Scotland, maybe North Wales too, but many places becoming dry. Temperatures dipping down to 13, 14 degrees. Rural spots a little lower, so slightly fresher than quite a few nights of late. During Friday then, it is going to be a case of watching where we see the showers, but I don't think we'll see as many as we have done through the day today, always some feeding in across northern parts of Scotland, but much of the central belt, southern Scotland, good part of Northern Ireland will have a dry and a fine Friday. Turning drier through the day, but some showers early on across Wales and the odd ones still across central and southern parts of England. Pretty well scattered at this stage, and as I say, tending to fade away. We are going to see quite a bit of thick cloud coming in from the North Sea, making for quite a drab day on some of these North Sea coast with a brisk and fairly cool wind blowing too. And inland, a sprinkling of showers developing across parts of northwest England, down across the Midlands, perhaps into southeast England. But many western areas becoming dry, bright with some sunshine. Again, that fresher feel, temperatures high teens, low 20s, so about average really for the time of year. As we head through the course of the weekends, we'll see a cooler, fresher start to Saturday. Many places again dry and fine. Just the odd chance of a shower across the east, and later on it'll cloud over in the northwest. But many places set fair on Saturday with some good spells of sunshine and feeling a bit warmer as well as temperatures get more widely up over 20 degrees Celsius. But notice behind me there's some wet weather coming in. Rain moving in on Sunday, and it could get very windy on Monday.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can win big, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? The holiday of a lifetime? Or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? Lines close on the 1st of August, so make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Thursday, the 31st of July. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
Now, it's a population boom. Yes, England and Wales's population jumps by 700,000 in just 1 year, with 98% of that driven by migration. Is this sustainable?
Yes, more than 1,000 protesters took to the streets of Waterlooville in Hampshire to oppose government plans to house migrants in new apartments.
And chaos continues from yesterday's major air traffic control failure, which grounded flights nationwide. Over 150 cancellations, and it took 20 minutes just to switch to a backup system. The question is, who's to blame?
And it comes as a private group of companies reveal their rival Heathrow expansion plan, but with a shorter runway. So, what's the point? We'll speak to the hotel tycoon behind the plans.
And elsewhere, Donald Trump warns Canada it could lose out on a US trade deal due to its support for Palestinian statehood, given that the countries following Britain and France are at risk.
And Microsoft says blue-collar jobs are the safest from artificial intelligence. So is it time we all learnt a new trade to future-proof our jobs?
And could being left out of a food run make you a victim? Well, one man just won £5,000 after his boss skipped him on a burger order, and a tribunal amazingly agreed.
Are short runways an issue, Tom?
Well, they're less useful than long runways, but they're faster to build.
Are they less useful?
Well, you can't get the big planes landing, you can only get the little planes.
You can get big lands. There are some really, some very short runways, aren't there, in hot spots around the world?
There are, but for short-haul
I mean,
flights.
the French airports. OK, so you couldn't fit, the sort of plane that goes to New York
You couldn't do a jumbo jet, but I suppose...
You sure?
I'm fairly sure, yeah. All of the runways around the world have been getting longer and longer as planes have got bigger and bigger. But I suppose the argument for this, and I've read a little bit about it, would be that you do all the short-haul flights on the short runway,
right,
and then you do the long-haul flights on the longer runways. But, I mean, it is undoubtedly a smaller expansion than the other plan was, but the argument is it can be delivered faster and cheaper.
We're going to hear more about it. gbnews.com/your say. Get in touch throughout the show. We've got a lot on our plate this hour, so you won't want to miss it. But it is the headlines with Sam Francis.
Hello, a very good afternoon to you. Just after 2 o'clock, the top story. The government here says it won't enter a to and fro with Hamas over its plans to recognise a Palestinian state, insisting it doesn't negotiate with terrorists. The Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, says any future state must exclude Hamas and that hostages must be released. He also says the aim is to use recognition as a way to move the conflict forward for good, with aid reaching Gaza and a two-state solution now on the table. Canada, meanwhile, has also joined the UK and France in backing statehood if, they say, reforms are made and Hamas is kept out. But the move has been slammed by Israel and Donald Trump, who says Canada could face 35% tariffs from Friday unless a deal is reached. Here, meanwhile, a 76-year-old man has been arrested after 8 children fell ill at a summer camp in Leicestershire. Police there were called to the village of Staton on Monday, where a triage centre was set up and the children were taken to hospital as a precaution. They have all since been discharged, but the man remains in custody on suspicion of administering poison. Leicestershire Police say they are working closely with children's services and have referred themselves to the police watchdog over how they initially responded to that incident. A major people smuggling operation has been disrupted after UK crime officers seized 25 small boats in Bulgaria. The National Crime Agency says each inflatable is capable of carrying up to 60 people and was found hidden in a lorry at a key border crossing used by trafficking gangs. They were destined for use in English Channel crossings, with officials warning the type of boat is often dangerously overcrowded and completely unfit for sea. It's the biggest boat seizure of this year so far and comes just a day after nearly 900 migrants reached UK waters, pushing this year's total past 24,500. Ofcom is cracking down on porn sites, failing to protect children online. 4 companies today running 34 adult websites are under informal investigation over their age check systems. The sites attract more than 9 million UK users each month, but Ofcom says it's not clear if they're keeping under 18s out. The regulator says the group of firms were prioritised due to high user numbers and potential risk of harm. Airlines are calling for heads to roll after a technical glitch grounded over 150 flights during one of the UK's busiest travel weeks of the year. Ryanair and EasyJet say the disruption is outrageous and extremely disappointing, with Ryanair demanding the resignation of air traffic control boss Martin Rolfe. The radar-related issue hit just after 4 p.m. and was resolved in under 20 minutes, but left thousands of passengers stranded. Departures have now resumed, but airlines want urgent reforms and passengers are still being urged to check before heading to the airport. The singer Jess Glynne has said she feels sick after the White House used her hit song, Hold My Hand, in a meme-style video promoting deportations. That clip shows migrants in handcuffs boarding a plane with viral Jet2 Holidays advert dubbed over the top. Voiceover actress Zoe Lister says she would have never condoned her work being linked with, quote, Trump and his abhorrent policies. Glynne also says her music is about love and positivity, never division or hate. Users on social media are blasting the video as inhumane and embarrassing. And Mohammed has once again topped the list of baby boy names in England and Wales, the second year running in the #1 spot. The name was the most popular in 4 out of 9 regions, according to new figures from the Office for National Statistics. Noah came in a close second, followed by Oliver, Arthur and Leo. For the girls, Olivia kept the crown for a 7th straight year ahead of Amelia, Lily and Isla. Other top 10 picks included Archie, Ivy, Oscar and Florence. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Next, though, let's take a look at the markets.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the markets for you this hour. The pound will buy you $1.3231 and €1.1561. The price of gold is £2,505.64 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,166 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 8 minutes past 2. Now, the Prime Minister is preparing to back the biggest expansion of Britain's airports in 50 years, with Heathrow's 3rd runway at the heart of it.
Yes, and the hotel tycoon and businessman Surinder Arora has published a new plan which is intended to rival that of the airport's owners, proposing a shorter new runway which would avoid the costly need to divert the M25 motorway.
Well, we're happy to say that the founder and chairman of Aurora Group, Surinder Arora, joins us now. Surinder, thanks so much for making the time for us this afternoon. I suppose there is a sort of trade-off with your proposal. It's faster, it's cheaper, but it's not a full-length runway.
Well, actually, that's not quite there. So if I may just take a bit of background and history. Heathrow, when I came to this great country back in '72, it was the busiest international airport in the world, the cheapest airport in the world. Sadly, today, it's the most expensive airport in the world, #1. And yet, we're not even in the top 20 from service standards point of view in the world ranking.
Sorry, Surinder, what do you mean by the most expensive in terms of what?
From landing charges, parking charges, anything to do with that, we are the most expensive airport in the world. And yet, when you look at the all the different service point of view, the world rankings, Heathrow's not even in the top 20. So I've been obviously spent all my life around the airfield, and it's not all their fault as such. It's the actual regulatory model, the way the model works under the RAB system, which is the regulatory asset base. The more they spend, the more they make. So they're guaranteed a return, the shareholders. So whatever they do in life, they'll always make a guaranteed return, and everything they do has to be gold-plated. So when they first announced after the Davies Commission report that we should be building a 3,500 meter runway over the M25, and the first thing I asked the airlines and the CAA, the regulator, and saying, did you have any input into it? They didn't. It was actually the airport who really, do they know better than the airlines and the regulator, or themselves?
Yeah.
So, you know, the world has changed. What we're not coming up with and saying, oh, we know, we've been discussing and brought the best consultants in. We've been working with the airlines, everyone around, and the regulator, and saying, we'll come up with our suggestions, but we'll deliver what the airlines want.
Yeah.
Back in 2007, the airport had come up with a suggestion, 2,000 meter runway that will only take European and domestic flights. That's wrong, and that's not something we should. But today, the world has moved on, technology has moved on, aircrafts have moved on. You don't, for example, have the 747s and some of the other older aircrafts. So we've come up with the optimum size of 2,800 meter runway.
Yeah.
That can take every single aircraft in any condition landing, can land. So whether it's the 380, the 777, the Dreamliner, or the short-haul flights. What it can also do is take most of the flight on takeoff. So when you look at an aircraft taking off, they look at the weight of the aircraft, the passengers.
But these are less, there are more restrictions on what your length of runway compared to the full 2,000 metre runway. Of course, Heathrow will be competing with airports like Amsterdam Schiphol, like Paris. I mean, Charles de Gaulle has, I think, 4 full-length runways. Schiphol has 6 full-length runways. With 2.5, can Heathrow really compete?
No, it's not 2.5, it's 3 runways. So it can take 100%, every aircraft landing at Heathrow today, our runway length is 2,800 meters, and it can take every single landing aircraft.
Just not every single taking off aircraft?
Well, no, but even on every aircraft taking off, and if you look at the worst extreme conditions, tailwind instead of headwind, temperatures, the hottest like Dubai, if we were to get there, there's only a difference of maximum about 14 aircrafts if they were fully loaded out of 200 plus flights a day.
Yeah.
It's only the 14 aircrafts, but then you got the other 2 long runways. So really the biggest point we're trying to make is it'll be a complete disaster to build over the M25.
Okay.
If you just see the last 2 years, the disruption that's been on the M25 by the A3, the works that's been going on, and here we're talking about digging up and sinking the M25.
Well, this sounds like it could be, Surinder, quite an elegant solution. Presumably, you can't have absolute perfection, and we were waiting for God knows how long for a 3rd runway.
Although, one of the arguments in favour of sinking a bit of the M25 is at the moment the M25 gets gunged up with a lot of Heathrow traffic.
How much is that going to cost, though? I mean, your proposal, sorry, Surinder, it's £25 billion, isn't it?
Yeah, so we are, obviously we'll let you compare apple for apple with the Heathrow numbers. The thing Heathrow, and when I talk about Heathrow being the most expensive, on one side you read about Heathrow and saying, we know what we're doing, we're the best at what we're doing. Well, they're the most expensive. We're not, from a customer service point of view, in the top 20. And now they want to dig up and sink the M25. Now, I don't know if you and your viewers
Surinder,
know...
isn't part of that proposal, though, that you can then split the Heathrow traffic? Because at the moment there's Heathrow traffic and London traffic all on the same road. It gets very, very busy, very, very congested. Isn't one of the arguments here, you reform the road, actually you take some of that traffic and divide it up?
Sadly not, because I think what you've got to do is if you've driven from London or from the West Country and you're coming onto the M25, there's a big drop. You've got to, when you're coming in from London and onto the M25, you drop in the current system, and that's fine. That drop is basically normal everywhere else. But if you then want to drop the M25 by another 10, 15 meters or more, what are you going to do to the M4? You're going to have to then adjust the M4 as well.
Right.
So you need to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, had you thought of the M4, Tom?
It's
You
a
hadn't thought of
complicated
that.
picture. Well, Surinder Aurora, really appreciate your time. It's a really fascinating suggestion.
Yeah, it
and
is,
it's
yeah.
good to see competition in all of these different things.
Well, this is the thing, you know, Surinder, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for coming on and explaining your proposal to us. Surinder Aurora, there, founder and chairman of Aurora Group. You know, it's down to business people to try and sort out these things, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and always good to see different proposals coming forward. But of course, one thing where we're seeing less competition is in speech in this country. Yes, a major free speech row is erupting between the United Kingdom and the United States.
Yes, American Congressman Jim Jordan has blasted the British government's Online Safety Act, calling it a tool to silence debate on immigration and civil unrest.
Well, now tech and free speech lawyer Preston Byrne is preparing to sue Ofcom in an American federal court, arguing that Britain's broadcast regulator is overstepping and threatening free speech beyond its borders, threatening American companies.
Well, Preston Byrne, that lawyer, joins us now. Preston, thank you very much. So, on what grounds are you suing Ofcom?
So, Ofcom has awoken the screaming eagle, and they're really not going to like the results of what comes next. In the United States, we have this thing called the First Amendment, and the First Amendment protects an American's right to talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime about anything they choose without interference from anybody, not Congress, not a senator, not the governor, not even the president, and certainly not a British unelected bureaucrat. Ofcom has been sending letters to my clients, and I have intercepted and read every single one of the 4 companies, American social media companies they've targeted with this. And I have forwarded all that correspondence to the White House. And the White House is really, really, really ticked off. For context about how seriously we take these things in the United States, if I were to do what Ofcom did and threaten an American in the free exercise of their constitutional rights, I would be subject to a 10-year federal prison term. If I paired it with a threat to kidnap, the maximum penalty is death. They have no idea what they've woken up. The empire is extremely cheesed off. Lord Palmerston said in 1850, he invoked the famous Roman saying, "Civis Romanus sum," when the British Empire was running the show, to describe the idea that if you mess with any Briton anywhere on the planet, you're going to have to deal with everybody. Well, you picked on an American, and now you got all of us to deal with.
Preston, you raised the prospect of kidnap, and of course that is presumably because in this country we are threatening the arrest of American technology executives or employees if they don't follow British rules. But I suppose the issue is an American firm could simply say, we're not going to provide a service to Britain, we're just going to shut down our website, Brits won't be able to access it. I mean, I suppose they could then argue, Ofcom could then argue, well, you have the choice that you either operate in our jurisdiction and follow our rules or you don't.
Well, we're not operating in Ofcom's jurisdictions or following its rules. These companies are American companies running American servers and American software on American soil. And Ofcom is purporting to have the authority to dictate to these American companies what they can and can't publish and who they can and can't talk to. And with all due respect to the British government, the Labour government and Ofcom, we fought a war over this and the UK lost.
And what's the tone of the communications coming from Ofcom been?
Deeply threatening and offensive.
Right, OK. Could you elaborate on that at all?
If you run around and I'm a lawyer, right? If you turn around and you tell one of my clients, you are engaging in perfectly lawful activity, right? And, oh, by the way, for that lawful activity, I'm going to arrest you and throw you in a British prison for 2 years. I take grave offense to that. It frightens my clients, it scares my clients, it offends me, and it offends the White House. And we're about to do something about it.
And as you say, the White House has issued some indication that this is going to become an issue between the United States and the United Kingdom. We've already seen a congressional delegation over in London this week raising just these issues. And, of course, we've seen not just American websites be threatened with everything that you say, but also content be restricted by those American websites that are complying with the law. We've seen people's statements about the grooming gang scandal, protests about immigration, as well as things that people would ordinarily think are innocuous, be now restricted on social media platforms in this country. What do you think the American government could do in the coming weeks or months?
So, I can't speak for the White House. They have to speak for themselves. I've made certain recommendations from the White House, including to start that Peter Kyle MP be banned from entering the United States. We've also
He's the
suggested
technology
that
secretary.
The technology secretary, yes. We suggested he be banned from the United States for threatening American citizens in public, as he has done. We've also recommended that this be part of trade negotiations. Honestly, the fairest settlement here is that the UK gets access to our markets, but when they do so, they have to respect our Constitution. I think that's a pretty fair bargain, particularly when you consider that there really is no law more foundational to the United States than the First Amendment. It's our most cherished and sacred rule. And finally, we also have recommended and contacted the Department of Justice with a request for criminal referrals and for them to open investigations for conspiracy against rights. As I mentioned, that's punishable by 10 years in a federal prison and up to the penalty of death if kidnapping is involved. I don't know whether they're going to do that or not, but the fact is we've asked the U.S. government to apply every single diplomatic and legal lever available to stop this infringement of American civil rights.
Well, Preston, thank you very much indeed, and do update us on how this all goes. Preston Byrne, a lawyer, thank you very much indeed. We should say that GB News has contacted Ofcom, the regulator, for comment on this story.
And we'll keep you up to date as to whether or not the United States decide to issue that arrest warrant for our technology secretary.
Fascinating, eh? Well, it's the final week to see how you could become £54,321 richer. The lines close tomorrow, so you won't want to miss it. Here's how to enter.
Lines close tomorrow on your chance to win big. It's our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. What would you do with that? With all of that cash, you could just chill out, treat yourself and indulge in the finer things in life, somewhere like here, Downhall Hotel and Spa. You really could win the cash giveaway of the summer. Go on, treat yourself.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more coming on today's show.
Yes, Microsoft says blue-collar jobs are the safest from artificial intelligence. So is it time we all learn to trade to future-proof our jobs? What trade would you go for, Tom?
I think plumber's the one to do, isn't it? You're not going to see a robot near water anytime soon. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe plumber. Yeah, it's a good one.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 25 minutes past 2. Now, sewage workers, railway builders and powerboat drivers are among the least likely to be replaced by artificial intelligence. That's all according to a new study by Microsoft.
Oh, I wonder why powerboat drivers are immune.
Yeah, you'd think that AI could easily drive a powerboat if you can drive a car.
Maybe there's a reason. Well, the research released by Microsoft analysed real-life chatbot conversations to identify which jobs are most and least at risk from AI.
So, is learning a trade the smartest way to future-proof your career, or are we all doomed anyway?
Are we all doomed anyway?
No, honestly.
We'll have showers that never need to be fixed.
Look, or we'll have waterproof robots that will fix the showers
Houses
for us.
that build themselves.
Robots that build the houses. I mean, this is the thing.
This is his dream world. I'd hate it.
It's not. It's just the world that we're heading towards.
I like people.
We are catering. We're going towards this world at quite the cater. But this is the curious thing, right? There are people that have been right in terms of their predictions of AI over the last few years, and people that have been wrong. I tend to listen to the people
Have you ever been wrong?
Right. I've been wrong lots of times. But I tend to listen to the people who've been right.
Yeah.
And there are some forecasters who sort of forecasted exactly where we'd be. I mean, if you'd have asked a lot of people 2 or 3 years ago, would AI be able to, pass PhD-level examinations? A lot of people would have said no, but that's where we are. That's where AI is today.
We're just not needed anymore, are we, people?
And here's the thing. These researchers say that in the next 2, 3, 5 years, AI could well easily do any sort of desk-based, computer-based job. And in that world, I mean, what are we going to do?
Well, it's our Scott Mullins, CEO of We Fix London. Scott, I am becoming more inclined to agree that people should learn a trade. I mean...
Well, before we speak to Scott...
Oh, he's not on the line. Apologies.
He's just connecting now, so there's a moment to hold...
Well, I'll ask you. You said plumber.
Yeah.
That's a good one, and you can earn quite a good living, I think.
You can.
Off being a plumber. Painter, decorator, plasterer, builder, of course.
Yeah.
What else is there?
But here's... any job...
Could a robot cut your hair? Probably.
Sure. This is the thing, though. It's going to take a lot longer to build up the infrastructure to have robots everywhere in the country. I think we eventually will get there. I mean, I sound mad when I say this stuff.
Yeah, but you want it.
That.
That's the freaky thing. Why do you want this world? This dystopian world where people just communicate with robots.
Because you can't undo technology. I don't want to be the one country that doesn't do the technological revolution. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
What if actually it's not a good thing, though? What if actually it ruins our lives?
OK, we could have said this in the 1700s. We could have said this when everyone was mechanising. Well, we're taking away the sort of soul. Weavers are no longer weaving their own clothes.
God, it's not the same as a printer.
The dark satanic mills that are doing all of the work that humans used to do. I wonder if we're going to be in a similar situation and falling behind because of it.
Well, we're going to go to the headlines and then we're going to speak to our guest.
Well, that's a cracking idea. Let's catch up on those headlines. Very good afternoon from the newsroom. The top stories at 2:30. Canada has joined the UK and France in pledging to recognise a Palestinian state if, they say, conditions are met. But Prime Minister Mark Carney insists Hamas must be excluded from power. Here, 5 Conservative MPs are demanding an urgent meeting with the Home Secretary as concerns mount over the growing use of hotels for asylum seekers. Suella Braverman warns it could overwhelm public services after nearly 900 migrants crossed the Channel just yesterday. Ryanair and EasyJet are demanding air traffic control reforms after what the airlines have described as outrageous disruption. Over 150 UK flights were grounded after a radar glitch, the second major failure in less than a year. Junior doctors will return to talks with the government after a 5-day strike. The Health Secretary says no more pay talks, but working conditions will be discussed. Singer Jess Glynn has slammed the White House for using her song, Hold My Hand, in a video promoting deportations. She says it's sick. The viral Jet2 holiday video, which has been used in millions of TikToks, has faced backlash for being used in a political context. And Mohammed has been named the top spot for boys' names in England and Wales for the 2nd year running. For girls, Olivia reigns supreme for the 7th year. Other popular names include Archie, Ivy, Oscar and Florence. Those are the headlines for now, and Aaron Armstrong here with all your news at 3 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Well, welcome back. Attention. 2:31. Good afternoon, Britain. So, yes, we're going to continue our discussion of whether learning a trade is probably the smartest way to future-proof your career with robots taking over.
Well, delighted to say that now we can be joined by the CEO of WeFix London, Scott Mullins. Scott, thanks so much for being with us here on Good Afternoon, Britain. A lot of people are saying this, that frankly, a lot of jobs where people are just emailing each other or writing reports. I mean, this is all going to be done by AI in the next couple of years. Should we all be signing up to WeFix and starting working for you?
I think without a doubt what you're saying there is getting a trade behind your belt is going to be the answer. You know, electricians, carpenters, roofers, plumbers, you know, computers aren't going to be fixing boilers, aren't going to be repairing gas leaks, aren't going to be dealing with blocked toilets. So, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, I hear these youngsters, unfortunately, they're being pushed into university. They think that's the answer. I mean, it's actually going to become even more difficult now. You're going to these universities, you're getting into debt. There's now not even the jobs there when you come out. Well, in 5 years' time, the computers, the AI, are going to take everything over. So, more than ever now, set anything physical, you know, like what we do, is the way forward. You've got a job for life.
Yeah, I'm just looking at what the top earning trade jobs are in the UK at the moment. Locksmiths, doing pretty well. Heating engineers and gas fitters, plumbers, bathroom fitters, painters, decorators, electricians. And then if you start your own business, and you take on a few others, I mean, you can be rolling in it, can't you, Scott?
Oh, listen, it's definitely the way forward. I mean, you know, we're getting lots and lots of apprentices coming on at WeFix London now, and we're saying to them, you know, before they was thinking, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an accountant, I want to be this, you know, they're understanding this is getting taken over. A&I, you know, at the moment, you know, A&I will be making the decision whether you go to the toilet or not. I mean, you've got to, from my point of view, WeFix London, good with you hands, customers always have problems. Job for life, no problem.
Scott, do you think that the UK could be in a particular point of vulnerability here? Because we do have so much service sector, white-collar work. I mean, there are more than 1 million Brits who work in call centres, for instance. Those jobs could go in the next year or two just on current technology. I mean, people can talk to AI. If you've ever used one of these incredible AI apps where you can just have a conversation with the thing, it's easy to see how these jobs are going to go really quickly. I mean, do you think that the UK, because so many people work in these white-collar jobs compared to the number of people who work in blue-collar jobs, that actually compared to lots of other countries in the world, we're in a particular vulnerability here?
Oh, definitely. Listen, people are going to lose jobs left, right and centre. The economy is going to be, well, look, we're on our knees as it is, so it's just going to make matters worse. And, you know, look, you know, we've already had people at WeFix London have said, oh, you know, A&I, let them pick your phones up at night. We can, no way, that person, you know that personal touch. There's nothing more frustrating than talking to a robot. That's pretty much what it is. You're going to be talking to something on the end of the phone. There's no interaction. It's not happening here. It's not
The
happening
only
here.
problem is, Scott, is that some of us, myself, don't really have the skills or the talent for some of these jobs. I mean, it takes me long enough to put together an IKEA flat pack. I'm not sure I could be doing your plumbing for you. I mean, do you think anyone can do these jobs, or do you think you have to be a particular type of person who's actually good with their hands?
Yeah, you've got to be good with your hands. You've got to be enthusiastic. You've got to want to do it. You've got to work hard. Listen, I mean, you say you're no good at it. Have you tried?
Well, I've tried the flat packs, and I find it a little bit. I'm just trying to take the most basic sort of DIY thing that I could think of, and I'm not very talented at it. But perhaps if I tried more, I could be an electrician.
You never know. Listen, apprentices are going up and coming at all ages, and people are trying. So listen, why not? I mean, there's a lot of good young ladies out there, so I wouldn't write yourself off yet.
OK, I won't write myself off.
Well, that is a very positive note for this conversation that is a doom-laden conversation in so many ways. But no, Scott Mullins, thanks so much for joining us, and good to speak to you. And let's hope that there are more businesses like We Fix London that can actually ride through what is going to be a fairly tumultuous time in terms of the labour market.
Yeah, I think I'm drawing the line at roofer. I think that's a little bit too dangerous for me. Scott Mullins, thank you very much indeed. We'll speak to you soon.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come.
Yes, so it's a historic first for the church in Wales, because it's appointed its first female and openly gay archbishop. Is this the start of a modern new era for the church? Or just a continuation, really?
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's quite warm and humid across the south today, and there is a Met Office yellow thunderstorm warning in place. Not everywhere in the warning area will catch a downpour, but where they do occur, they could cause some problems with a lot of rain falling in a short space of time. This weather front is the main focus for those thundery showers. We've already seen one or two, and continued risk through the afternoon across these southernmost counties of England in particular. As I said, hit and miss, but where they do occur, a lot of rain could fall in a short space of time, potentially giving some local flooding. Further north, well, a few scattered light showers, many places dry, cloudy, and a little fresher than yesterday, and still quite warm and humid across the south. Now, as I said, these downpours will continue into the evening. Parts of East Anglia down towards Dorset. That's the main area at risk, but not everywhere in that zone will catch the downpours. But as I said, where they do occur, they could cause some local flooding, certainly a lot of spray and surface water on the roads. A few lighter showers across northern England, the odd one coming into Northern Ireland and westernmost parts of Scotland. And staying pretty grey across the far northeast with thicker cloud and rain and drizzle at times, just edging back up towards the Northern Isles. Now, as we go through the evening time, the thundery showers across the south should tend to fade away. That warning is in place until 9 o'clock this evening. Then we'll see thicker cloud returning to some parts of northeast England, the odd little bit of showery rain here and there, and a few showers continuing to feed into northern Scotland. But many places becoming dry overnight, temperatures dipping down into the low teens for most of us. On to Friday's weather, and generally a drier day across the south. Still not completely dry, quite cloudy in eastern England. Some light rain and drizzle at times on the coast, and inland we'll see some showers breaking out from northern England down across the Midlands towards the southeast. Not as heavy as today's, and many western areas will stay dry and bright with some sunny spells. Temperatures mostly high teens or low 20s.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users should be aware of delays. The A86 is restricted in both directions at Malagan due to an incident. The M4 eastbound at Junction 48, Hendy remains closed for planned maintenance with diversions. There is a collision on the M4 westbound between Junction 7 and 8, Windsor and Maidenhead, closing 3 lanes. All lanes on the M3 eastbound exit slip at Junction 2 in Surrey are shut due to a collision. And on the trains, there are reduced services on Hull trains due to industrial action, with similar disruptions on London North Western Railway between Bedford and Bletchley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 3. Now, the church in Wales has made history, achieving several milestones.
Yeah, it's appointed its first ever female archbishop and its first ever lesbian archbishop.
Sherry Van has been named, or is it Cherry Van has been named, or is it Cherry Van? Who knows?
Cherry Van.
She's been named as the 15th Archbishop of Wales, replacing Andrew John, an easier name to pronounce, who retired last month after 3.5 years in the role.
It's just you butchering names left, right and centre. Anyway, joining us now is the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II and the associate editor at the Catholic Herald, Dr Gavin Ashenden. Gavin, what do you make of this? A lady and a lesbian?
Well, it's quite clearly a triumph for lesbians and for feminism. And so one should say, if you want the world to be a place where lesbianism and feminism triumphs, then congratulations. It begs the question of whether or not it's a triumph for Christianity. And there are two reasons I think it might not be. The first is that the church in Wales, which has been pursuing these values for some time, is dead on its feet. There are very few people in it anymore. But the second is that during the whole of my lifetime, there's been the promise that if you would ordain women to priests and bishops, then the church would become a kinder, calmer, more competent and lovelier and successful place. Actually, the opposite's happened. We've discovered that women can bully just as well as men can, and there have been some really rather serious bullying cases brought against women bishops in Anglicanism. And the difficulty is that it's not where the church is growing. To everyone's surprise, and you've been reporting on this yourselves, there's a Gen Z revival going on, and where the revival is taking place is not where the church is lesbian and feminist, it's where it's traditionalist. And one of the things we discovered is you can have feminism and lesbianism if you want them, but you do it at the expense of motherhood and families. So then the question is the church, is Christianity best at serving motherhood and families or not? And one final thing, I mean, I think the statistics are that the gay percentage of the population has been about 2 and 4%. So if you're going to have to build a church which is in the model on either the 97, let's go for a compromise, 97% or the 3%, which is it going to be? So far the evidence is building it on the preferences of the 3% doesn't work for Christianity.
It's an interesting dilemma, I suppose, for various religious communities in terms of sort of what should this faith be? Is faith something that changes over time and adapts to modern social mores, or is it something that is resolute and sustained? Although I suppose within that there is also a contradiction, given that the church has evolved, although it has evolved slowly. But so much of the church would be unrecognisable today compared to the fire and brimstone that was preached 500 years ago.
Well, there's always outbreaks of fire and brimstone wherever you go. They're becoming more popular. But you're quite right. You've articulated the issue very clearly. Is the church there to adapt and change with the different cultures, or is it there to change the culture? I think we've been doing this for 2,000 years now, and we know, obviously there's some overlap. It's not a matter of black and white. But if you have to choose between which has greater influence, it's the responsibility of the church and Christianity to change and convert culture. And that's what, that's why Europe became what it was. We were confronted with a paganism, for example, a form of paganism that's coming back. The problem, I think, with feminism and lesbianism is that what it's doing is it's taking the church away from its moorings and it's making the church in the image of the surrounding culture. Well, we've had 50 years to see whether or not that's a good idea.
Maybe if she used every sermon to bang on about her sexuality and her sexual preferences, I mean, that would get tiresome quite quickly. But I don't know if there's any indication that she brings it to work, as it were.
No, I'm not suggesting she's anything as crass as that. She's obviously a very competent, grown-up, and I expect very nice lady. The problem, so feminist Christianity is a kind of, it's not exactly a sect, but it's a different way of doing it. And what you find is that it doesn't attract men. Men don't like it, and they don't come to church. They always found it difficult to come to church. They found it ever so much more difficult to come to church in my life. They're not even there, in fact. And it doesn't attract some women. A lot of women have been saying, and you know this, you'll have read this as much as I have, that feminism feminism made a whole series of false promises. You can't have everything, you can't do everything. You can be a mother, but only if you outsource it to the state. And so one of the things that's happening within Christianity, and particularly within Catholicism, is that the traditional model of the family is coming back, where mother's mother, and you have stable relationships with children, social glue, and an entirely different culture. Now, Cherry Van isn't against those things. She just represents an alternative culture, and it isn't that.
Now, isn't it the case that in the Catholic Church, if you're a bishop, you must be celibate? Is that am I thinking correctly?
Yes. Yes, you're right.
So if that is the point, surely any bishop in the Catholic Church would not be representing the values of sort of family and fatherhood and children and all the rest of it. So in any case, any bishop slightly sits outside that world of the country or the society that they're trying to promote.
Well, it's not that bishops or priests model fatherhood by having physical children. That's never been the castile Christian idea. Actually, what happens is that the clergy marry the church, rather like nuns do. So they are espoused to the body of Christ. But it's that the model for being a Christian is a heterosexual model where you do your sex inside the family. So bishops, whether they're celibate or not, stand for that. The Catholic Church stands for that, for a celebration of heterosexual Christianity, where bringing up children in the culture is the most important thing. That's the way it's done. So, and that's really the difference between, for example, progressive Anglicanism in the Church of Wales, where it's not about that, and Catholicism and Orthodoxy. And going back to your point earlier on, the historic churches that are most in touch with the way in which church has always been are the Roman Catholic Church in the West and the Orthodox Church in the East. They don't accept lesbianism or feminism. They do put an enormous amount of emphasis on the integrity of the family and bringing up children in that context. And we also know, politically, sociologically, actually that works better.
OK, well, Dr Gavin Ashenden, thank you very much indeed. Former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II and associate editor at the Catholic Herald. So there you go. Some will find some of that quite controversial.
Certainly. Although, I mean, there's an internal logic to it. If you want to ascribe to a sort of ancient religion that has all sorts of ancient rules and customs, well, sort of that box. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can, but there are lots of people who would take it a different interpretation. I mean, that's a very Catholic interpretation of sort of religion and all the rest of it. But I suppose it's up to those religions to decide what their rules are and where their parameters lie.
Yeah, it's also, if things are too male-centric, then presumably, the women won't want to come to church.
Yep,
unless they're dragged there by their husbands and sons, I suppose.
Well, I suppose it depends how paternalistic the society is.
Anyway, if you're in search of some holiday sun, perhaps in a Catholic country, here's the forecast.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Quite a messy picture across Europe at the moment. Some places will have decent dry weather, but there is also some heavy thundery rain around. Temperatures across parts of Greece and Turkey not as high as they were to start the week, but nonetheless still pretty hot. And with that hot air, we are seeing some hefty showers. Could be some thunder also across parts of northern Italy, and some fairly frequent showers across central parts of Spain. A few showery bursts across the Canary Islands as well. Otherwise, a lot of dry weather and more dry weather to come into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Oh, hello. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. That's the second time we've done that. We've got lots more coming up. Yes, could being left out of a food run make you a victim? Yes, one man, just one, over £5,000 after his boss skipped him on the burger order, and an employment tribunal agreed. We'll give the details after the break.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines and you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain. It's just gone 10 to 3. Now, a removals worker has won £5,500 after his manager left him out of a workplace food run because he'd reported a homophobic slur.
All right, there might be more to this. An employment tribunal ruled it wasn't just childish behaviour, but victimisation and harassment. What is going on here?
Well, shall we get the details now with the head of employment at Payne Hicks Beach, James Townsend. James, it does sound like a curious story.
Yeah, good afternoon. I had a look at the judgment earlier on today. It was a 4-day hearing, would you believe, in Glasgow. And there was actually quite a serious incident at the beginning of all of this. And it was limited on time, actually. It wasn't allowed. But there was a serious homophobic slur which had happened. The company accepted that it had happened. The company becomes responsible through vicarious liability for that happening. And then we get to the end of the judgment. And obviously there is an act of victimisation and harassment, which is being excluded from a burger run. I think everybody else has bought a burger and not the claimant in this particular case. So it's a rather peculiar case in many respects, isn't it? Because damages are awarded, £2,500 for harassment, £3,000 for victimisation. And you're quite right, in relation to not having been bought a beef burger, bean burger, whatever you poison it at the burger.
I mean, was the suggestion that he hadn't been bought this burger because he was gay, openly gay? Or not even that?
It was suggested that he had been the subject of quite a serious homophobic slur earlier, and that his manager was treating him detrimentally, was harassing him because of his sexuality, and that was found to be the reason why he wasn't included in the burger run. So in some respects, you think excluding someone from a burger, not that serious, but you shouldn't be treating people differently because of protected characteristics. And so the tribunal, having found that that occurred, went on to consider how much should be awarded for injured feelings. It did award at the lower end of the scale that it could have awarded at, and I think that was probably right.
James, all this detail makes the story a lot less fun, but thank you for providing it in any case. James Townsend, Head of Employment at Payne Hicks Beach. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Well, thanks for watching. Good afternoon, Britain. Do not go anywhere. Alex Armstrong is up next, and Dawn is in my place tomorrow, isn't she?
She is indeed. So we'll be back at midday tomorrow, but Alex is up now.
Yes, we've got a massive show. Of course, huge population boom in Britain. Who is responsible? I'm going to be getting into it. And who is also going to be spiking inflation? Is it back? And what does it mean for your bills at home? That and so much more, including a war on net zero. Stay tuned. We've got a huge show here coming up for you. But first up, it's your weather.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Overnight tonight, the heavy thundery showers that we've seen across the south will be clearing away. In many places, we'll have a fresher night with some clearer spells. But right now, still some downpours across parts of the south. Met Office yellow warning in place, and potential for some local flooding and certainly a lot of spray and surface water on the roads. But those hefty downpours do pull away. We'll keep some showers coming into parts of eastern England and northern Scotland, maybe North Wales too. But